If you've ever altered your plans because it's Friday the 13th, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, where we close the week out strong here on Friday. We're waiting on the CPI print here today. We're going to have Mark Putrino on today. We've got Anne Marie on today. Got a whole lot of stuff to do. We got a 3-day weekend looming, so we'll see how interesting today is. We'll see what kind of opportunities we get here. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the February, Friday the 13th edition, 2026, begins right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. It's great to see a whole bunch of returning faces here today. I hope that you all had a wonderful rest of your Thursday. And although it is early on Friday, hopefully it's going well for you. 3-day weekend coming up here, Valentine's Day coming up here. Hopefully you all have some great plans for the weekend. But before we get to the weekend, we've got one more session to handle. We've got a data print to handle. Got a couple of guests we want to talk to, and we have some trading to do. Hope you guys are all excited. Let's see. Peter is first here today. Peter, you've been waking up early. That is awesome. Congrats on being first. Early bird gets the worm. Francis, you've been first a lot this week, but coming in second here. Great to see you. Crispy Biscuit. Good morning. If you ever fans, I just do it just to kind of make it something different. Maybe we get a laugh out of it. Maybe not. Maybe you can relate to it. I don't know. Just an interesting way to open it. Hopefully you are a fan of it. Hopefully you don't hate it. Yes, that girl. Good morning. Welcome back. Solitary Soldier. Good morning. Welcome back. Zach McCracken. I love that name so much, man. I can't even help it. Good morning, the Benzie gang. Karaoke dip, anyone? I gotta be honest with you. I have no idea what that is. What is karaoke dip? What is that? Brian, good morning. Welcome back. Producers locked in as he always is, which we love. Bob, good morning. Day Trader, good morning. Carlos, good morning. And Bernhard, good morning. Marty, good morning. Welcome back. MJ, good morning. I wonder if Benzinga have bandwidth issue for streaming. No, if you're talking about the cutouts yesterday, my internet was having some trouble yesterday and I cut out, but the stream went on fine and 13 was fine. And it actually cut out during a meeting too. My coworkers thought I was dipping out of a meeting, which was not the case. But no, I don't think we have bandwidth issues. Producer, am I on the right track here? Let me know. But nonetheless, appreciate it. Brian says a sticky inflation number today would be disastrous after yesterday's slide. What do you think is going to happen? You think the world's going to end here, Bri? Let me know. Marianetta says, I'm considering sending an email to share some feedback and ideas for the live stream. We love that. We definitely want to hear your feedback, both positive and negative. You can email shows@benzinga.com. I'll have the producer throw that up here in the chat and on the screen. Email us all of your feedback, Marianetta. We absolutely want to hear that. Absolutely want to hear that. Just passing through. Good morning. Welcome back. Ooh, where did that? My whole thing just jumped. Just passing through. Good morning. Welcome back. Linda, good morning. Welcome back. Neville, good morning. Jean, good morning. Ed, good morning. Tim was right on European banks. The only thing green in my account. Yeah, you know what I've discovered over my career from knowing Tim Melvin? I've said Tim is right a lot, except when it comes to his bets on the Cubs. Ooh, take that, Tim. You're not here to defend yourself. Take that. Okay. Maverick, good morning. Welcome back. Good morning. Welcome back. Cam, good morning. Welcome back. Davich, good morning. Welcome back. JJ, good morning. Welcome back. Robot to Trade, good morning. Welcome back. Tyler, it's good to see you as always. Edward, welcome back. Astro Kev, welcome back. It's good to have you. Nick, looking for some short trades this morning. Well, Nick, let's see what the CPI does, because if the CPI pops, remember, last week, we were bearish all week, right? The puts clearly worked. Like the bears won the week. But on Friday, we had that big rip your face off rally. And it seems that those come more on Friday. So just be careful if you're going to short, if you want to short pops today because you think overall the market's going to go down or there's some trepidation before the 3-day weekend. All of that makes sense. Totally get it. Just be as tactical as possible given what we saw last week. I don't know what's going to happen, but just saying, be careful. Okay, Let's see. Where did I? Oh, here we go. Lambo Rolls. Good morning. Welcome back. Thank you, producer. Acorns. Good morning. Welcome back. Acorn says, if I was a booger, he'd pick me. Well, it's early, so technically that's the nicest thing someone said to me here today. I'm not sure how to take that, but I'm going to do what I normally do and be glass half full and take that as a compliment. Thank you, Acorns. Rooster, good morning. Welcome back. Dirkus, good morning. Welcome back. Kenzo, good morning. Welcome back. Eric, good to see you again. Welcome back. Sean, it's good as always. Jonas, good morning. Welcome back. I think that's it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started with our stock market today. All right, futures under pressure ahead of Friday's open here. It's been kind of an under pressure week, and we're seeing a little bit more of that here today ahead of the CPI print. S&P futures down 0.18%, Dow futures down 0.16%, and the NASDAQ down 0.23%. Now let's take a look at some cues from last session here. Information technology, energy, and financial stocks led the S&P 500's decline on Thursday, while utilities and consumer staples continued the upward trend. That's something that we've been watching here quite a bit recently. Investors are awaiting the January inflation print as experts like Tom Lee estimate the core CPI year over year to drop to 2.52%. Matching the 2017 to 2019 average and signaling a return to pre-COVID inflation. Really need to get some deflation going. That's what we actually need. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.12%, and the 2-year bond was at 3.47%. The CME Group's Fed Watch Tool projections show the market is pricing in a 92.1% likelihood that the Federal Reserve holds interest rates unchanged during the March meeting. This, remember, started at like 95%, creeped down into the high 70s, and here we are back in the low 90s. So I know we've got a little bit before that March meeting, but sure seems like they're going to hold interest rates there from every piece of data that we've got so far. We have several stocks in focus for you here today, and the first one is going to be Roku. That's ticker ROKU, and it jumped 13.7% in the pre-market on Friday after reporting better than expected fourth quarter financial results and issuing full year 26 sales guidance above estimates. Roku reported quarterly earnings of 53 cents per share, which beat the consensus of 27 cents. And it beat that by 93.43%. So a big beat there. By the way, their sales of $1.39 billion beat their estimate of $1.354 billion. They also saw Q1 sales at $1.2 to $1.16 billion. Reverse that, 1.16 to 1.2 billion. And a full year 26 sales of 5.5 billion versus the 5.336 billion estimate. So huge beat on the EPS. Not so huge of a beat on the guide, but still higher and still positive for Roku. The next stock on our list is going to be Arista Networks. This is ticker ANET. You'll often hear it called ANET. The stock gained 12.12% after posting upbeat fourth quarter earnings and issuing strong guidance. Arista reported quarterly earnings of 82 cents per share, which beat the street at 76 cents per share. They also saw sales of $2.487 billion, which beat the estimate of $2.38 billion. And they saw Q1 sales at $2.6 billion. That's versus the $2.44 estimate. So another good print there for Arista Networks. The next stock on our list is going to be TriPoint Homes, and the ticker on this is TPH. It surged 25.79% after it announced an all-cash strategic combination with Sumitomo Forestry to create a U.S.-based home builder. The next stock on our list is going to be Hive Digital Technologies, and the ticker on this one is HIVE. It advanced 2.34% after signing customer agreements representing approximately $30 million in total contract value over 2 fixed terms, subject to performance obligations and deployment milestones. The last stock on our list here today is going to be Expedia Group. The ticker here is EXPE. It dropped 4.97% after reporting fourth quarter earnings as the company issued a muted margin forecast for 2026, despite beating the top and bottom line estimates. So the actual print itself, the EPS was 3.78. That beat the 3.33 estimate, and sales of 3.547 billion beat the estimate of 3.419 billion. Now the Q1 sales they had at 3.32 to 3.37 billion. That was versus the estimate of 3.2248 billion. And they saw full year 26 sales of 15.6 to 16 billion. The estimate was for 15.69. So still within range there on Expedia. All right, let's take a look at the chart here in Benzinga Pro. And really, we've got one thing, at least in my opinion, early on here to watch. We'll see what the CPI does. We're expecting that in 20 minutes, by the way. The one thing that we're looking at here in terms of levels is going to be this 100-day moving average. I've got this value right here at 100-day 679.16. We're currently at 679.20. So we are right on that 100-day. It is worth noting that the last two times that we tested this level, we bounced pretty nicely from it. This most recent one, it was a couple of days right back up to the resistance level and we rolled back over. So the question for me is, do we hold this for a third consecutive time? Or do we actually break beneath that? If we do break beneath that, I got to think that this area in here between 667 and 674 and change is likely going to be the next possible area of support. But I absolutely would not rule out the 200-day if we really start to pick up some of the selling. That's down here at 648.61. Just as a reminder on how, run-of-the-mill this is, a pullback to the 200-day represents a pullback of 7%. That's really not a whole lot. I mean, garden variety corrections can be anywhere between 5 and 10%. And frankly, that's exactly where the 200-day moving average is, A 5% pullback takes us about to 662. We'll see if we get any of that. It's also worth noting here, if we take a look at the weekly, we're actually trading beneath the 20-week moving average. So I would love to see on the back of the CPI print a close above some of these levels here, including the 679.5 level. One quick peek at the monthly chart shows you that we're still elevated here, still above one of those previous breakout levels. We're going to need the candle from today to really kind of tell us where we're going next. But we'll continue to check in on all of this. Now, let's take a look at some insights from analysts here. In early 2026, Scott Wren, global senior market strategist at Wells Fargo Investment Institute, maintained a resilient outlook on the U.S. economy, recently raising for annual growth estimates to 2.9%. Wren views the domestic economy as, quote, a gigantic aircraft carrier that is hard to knock off course, expecting it to weather temporary market stumbles and turmoil, end quote. Despite recent volatility that saw the S&P 500 index drop approximately 3% from its January record high, Wren argues that such corrections represent buying opportunities rather than deteriorating fundamentals. He emphasizes looking under the hood to see that performance is broadening beyond technology into cyclical and value-oriented sectors. This is exactly what we have been waiting for, and it doesn't mean that these tech companies are done. It means that if they fall out of favor and trade down, you're going to have an opportunity to buy quality companies that, frankly, are not going anywhere at a massive discount. That's where wealth generation comes from. So, positive. Again, glass half full, especially on Fridays. Scott Wren cites corporate earnings, anticipation of a fourth consecutive year of record earnings for the S&P 500. He also cites monetary policy, expectations for further Federal Reserve easing and rate cuts as the year progresses. And on the subject there of rate cuts, we talked a little bit about the CME Fed Watch tool and how there seemed to be pricing in a pause here in March. None of this should really be a surprise. We were saying before the calendar rolled over to 2026 that we probably were not going to see another rate cut until May, until Powell is out of there. We'll see how that shakes out. Sure looks like that's where we're going right now, but that doesn't mean that we won't get further rate cuts in the back half of the year. The other thing that we've talked about is February being a traditionally poor month in terms of market performance. With that sloppy performance, let's call it, maybe bottoming mid-March. And we're basically in the crux of this right now. So if we see some weakness in the market for the next, month, and it ends up resetting some of these frothy or overpriced asset prices, don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, particularly if you have a long-term time horizon. He also says a preference for U.S. assets over international ones, specifically favoring sectors like energy, materials, and industrials. Wren advises investors to look through the hand-wringing of the headlines. Does that sound familiar, folks? Who's been telling that? Who's been saying that? Who's been saying that you should ignore the hand-wringing? Anyone? Bueller? Anyway, remaining confident that the strengthening economy will eventually benefit a wider array of market sectors. Now, for today, January's consumer price index data will be released at 8:30. Again, we're about 15 minutes out from that. I will go to that as soon as we have it, and I'm willing to bet that the producer will end up putting that on the screen as well. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Coinbase. I'm going to go back to the chart here. Let's take a look at Coin. We'll start there with the chart. Doesn't look good. Now, Coinbase is up 5%, so you folks are going to have to tell me if it's bouncing off of this recent low or not. We're currently at like 148. The top end of this recent bounce is about 167, so we're basically right here at the support level. We are still in oversold territory with a reading on the RSI here at 27.95, so maybe we do get a little bit of a bounce today. But this is where the chart is. I'm curious to any of you folks. I know that Bitcoin's been a little weak right now, and that's absolutely affecting this. Are any of you kind of stalking Coin for a longer-term buy, a longer-term addition? And if so, what levels are you looking at to place those ads? And I say ads plural because if it comes into 113, 115, and you add there and decide you want to add again, maybe not down at 60, but you want to add again at 80, I want to know that. I want to know what the long-term plan is here for Coinbase. Now, they just reported earnings. CEO Brian Armstrong said Thursday that the company has the ability to launch its own prediction market business. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I went to the wrong one. That second little preview there on what we're going to be talking about. Let's first cover the earnings here. Coinbase reported fourth quarter total revenue of $1.78 billion. That was down 5% quarter over quarter. The revenue total missed the street consensus of $1.85 billion, according to Benzinga Pro. The company reported 66 cents in adjusted earnings per share for the quarter, beating a street estimate of 64 cents. The company's transaction revenue in the quarter was $982.7 million. That was down from $1.56 billion in last year's fourth quarter and down from $1.05 billion in the third quarter. Subscription and services revenue was $727.4 million in the fourth quarter. That was up from $641.1 million in last year's fourth quarter and down from the $646.7 million in the third quarter. For the full fiscal year, Coinbase saw revenue of $7.2 billion, which was up 9% year over year. The growth came despite a weak fourth quarter with major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum trading lower. Transaction revenue was $4.1 billion for the fiscal year. That's up 2% year over year. The company said total trading volume was $5.2 trillion for the fiscal year. That was up 156% year over year. The company saw its crypto trading volume market share double for that fiscal year. Quote, 2025 was a strong year for Coinbase, both operationally and financially. We executed consistently against our goals, delivering or outperforming our revenue and expense guidance every quarter, end quote. As the company works on diversification, it now has 12 products that produce annualized revenue of $100 million. 6 of those products have annualized revenue of more than $250 million, and 2 generate an annualized revenue of more than $1 billion. The company has repurchased a total of 8.2 million shares since November of 2025, and in January of 2026, the Coinbase board of directors expanded the share and long-term debt repurchase plan by an additional $2 billion. It's one of the reasons the stock is trading up, no doubt. The company is guiding for first quarter subscription and services revenue to be in the range of $550 to $630 million, which is lower than in recent quarters. The company said that through February 10th, its transaction revenue was $420 million for the first quarter. Looking forward to 2026, we continue to be optimistic about the long-term trajectory of the crypto industry, end quote. Key company priorities include growing the everything exchange, scaling stablecoins, and bringing the world on-chain with DeFi integrations, and by scaling the base app. Okay, so let's see here real quick. No, Lion, the correct answer was me, not you. Zach saying the another government shutdown is apparently probably coming. Gotta love those Democrat shutdowns, am I right? Acorn says coin puts to 115. Okay, so that's really helpful. So you think there's more of a leg down here first before Coinbase makes another move higher? Are you just totally bearish on crypto, or is this just like where you see Coinbase going here in the next, in the near term, I guess I should say? Would you consider longing if you got your 115 price target and it looked like Coinbase was going to kind of stabilize there? Would you flip long? I guess is the only question that I have there. All right, now let's go to the prediction market story that I had regarding Coinbase. Prediction markets are hot right now, no doubt. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong said Thursday that the company has the ability to launch its own prediction market business beyond serving as retail distributor for platforms like Kalshi. During the company's earnings call for the fourth quarter of 2025, Armstrong was asked whether the cryptocurrency giant has plans to build its own prediction market venue. Quote, "It's not an exclusive arrangement." He goes on to say, "We also have the ability to launch our own markets. Nothing to announce at the moment, but we're keeping all of our options open." I love that kind of talk. Coinbase rolled out the prediction market service in all 50 states last month, just in time for the Super Bowl. Well, how about that for timing? Kalshi CEO Tarek Mansour revealed earlier this week that Super Bowl 60 volume surged 2,700% year over year, with over 1 billion wagered on the game. Remember, when we took a look at the prediction market homepages, they were all sports, and that was post-Super Bowl. And leading up to the Super Bowl, that thing never moved. The Seattle New England Patriots bet was on the homepage at the top of trending. It didn't budge. It stayed there the whole time. To me, it really seems like the prediction markets are really trying to go after some of the sports betting. We saw DraftKings report last night and got absolutely fargoed and really just destroyed. Coinbase also aired a karaoke-style advertisement during Super Bowl 60. However, the idea failed to connect with viewers, trending as the lowest-rated advertisement the morning after the marquee sporting event. That just goes to show you that I'm definitely in the minority on pretty much everything. I thought the commercial was amusing, but I do agree, I didn't really know what it was for. I saw the Coinbase at the end, but didn't really get it. Nonetheless, I don't think I would have rated it the third as the lowest rating advertisement. I don't know if I would have gone there. Anyway, Coinbase's fourth quarter revenue. I already gave that to you. Sorry, that was a follow-up. So let me know on Coinbase. Acorn, yes, sir, because Bitcoin will also bounce. Marianetta says he doesn't trust crypto. Okay, so we'll see. I am interested in coin, but I have no intention of trying to be a hero and pick the bottom. And furthermore, just to kind of expand on that, at least now until the middle of March, I'm not going to try and be a hero on anything. I think this is a time where you kind of want to let this volatility sit out. I do want to remind you folks, definitely keep your list handy of these quality companies that you want to add on discounts, because if these things really come into levels that make more sense, Acorns, you're just giving us a 115 here. You have a longer term view that you think crypto is eventually going to bounce, and that should bring some of these other stocks with it. And I completely agree with you. So keep that list handy. Don't let it get too far. And remember, some days when the market is selling off and it just looks awful and ugly, just remember that a lot of those times, that's what we need. That is the time to buy. So, all right. Next here, we're going to talk a little bit about Apple. They got pounded yesterday. When was the last time you saw Apple really kind of trade down? Maybe we should start with the chart here on Apple. Let's do that. I'm sure you guys are going to have stocks to ask Mark Putrino about. Perhaps Apple's one of them. But we'll start with the chart here regardless. Yesterday's candle, really, really ugly, and not a typical Apple candle, dare I say. This candle took us through the 50, the 100, and the 20-day. All in one swoop. And it actually, to my eye here, I wouldn't be surprised if we traded down another 5 points. We'll see. We'll see how Apple shakes out. Now, it did get some good news. Apple down here 0.36% in the pre-market here. But Apple scored a major legal victory as the jury rejects Optus Wireless's 4G patent claims. iPhone maker says it was an attempt to obtain an excessive payout. And I mean, when you have a balance sheet like Apple's, I would imagine there are other companies trying to get a, quote, excessive payout. The dispute centers on allegations by Texas-based Optus Wireless that Apple's iPhones and other products violated patents tied to the 4G LTE standard. Optus sued in 2019, arguing Apple failed to properly license the technology. That was reported by Reuters. A prior jury in 2020 awarded Optus $506 million. A retrial in 2021 resulted in a $300 million reward, and both decisions were later overturned on appeal. In the latest trial in Marshall, Texas, jurors sided with Apple, quote, "We thank the jury for their time and we're pleased they rejected Optus's false claims," end quote. That came from an Apple spokesperson. They go on to say, quote, "Optus makes no products and its sole business is to sue companies, which it has done repeatedly to Apple in an attempt to obtain an excessive payout." Optus did not immediately respond to our questions. Now, the UK case is still pending. Separately, a UK court ruled last year that Apple owes Optus $502 million for infringing related patents. Apple has appealed, and the UK Supreme Court is expected to hear the case in June. I'm waiting for that one. I can't wait to see how that one shakes out. Quick reminder here of some of the rankings. Apple's still holding on to a 68th percentile momentum ranking and a 94th percentile quality ranking. Okay. Let's talk some AI. It wouldn't be a day without AI talk. The AI boom is real and Taiwan is cashing the checks. Taiwan raised its 2026 economic growth outlook as the island continues to benefit from the booming AI-driven exports. Taiwan's exports surged about 70% in January, which was the fastest pace in 16 years as global demand for AI-related hardware continues to accelerate. And this is definitely a time for the entire group to take a victory lap, because there was a lot of talk from us and you folks that Taiwan Semiconductor is really the ultimate thing behind the thing here for AI, at least in phase one. And its stock performance has shown that. Taiwan Semiconductor remains central to that strength, serving as the world's dominant contract chip maker and critical supplier of advanced semiconductors. The company plays an outsized role in Taiwan's economy and holds significant weight in the country's leading stock index. The foundry, a key supplier to NVIDIA and Apple in January, and plans to boost spending in 2026 as Alphabet, Meta, and Amazon and others ramp their AI investment. The Directorate General of Budget, Accounting, and Statistics now expects GDP to expand by 7.71% this year, sharply above the 3.5% growth pace it projected in November, and said further upward revisions remain possible. And again, that report came from Reuters. The agency slightly lowered its fourth quarter 2025 growth estimate to 12.65, but raised full year growth to 8.68. That's the fastest rate hike in 15 years. Officials said the balance of risk skews towards further upgrades as major cloud service providers ramp up AI-driven capital spending, reinforcing durable demand for Taiwan's semiconductor exports. Taiwan also projected exports surging 22.22% in 2026, far above its prior forecast, while inflation is expected to remain below the central bank's 2% target. Taiwan is also reinforcing its role as global AI and semiconductor center as NVIDIA moves ahead with a significant project to build a Taipei headquarters. Taipei city government signed an agreement with the B2 Shilin Technology Park site. granting NVIDIA a 50-year lease with a potential 20-year extension and 12.2 billion new Taiwanese dollars in royalties. NVIDIA expects to invest more than 40 billion new Taiwanese dollars, or about 1.3 billion USD, to create over 10,000 jobs once the project is operational, alongside plans to use the site as a commercial office and develop a broader business park. This expansion comes as NVIDIA deepens ties with Taiwan Semiconductor amid the booming AI demand. So Taiwan Semiconductor, it's been hot, and it doesn't look like this is going anywhere. Doesn't look like this is going anywhere. Okay, next here, we're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft. And once again, I'm going to go back to the chart. Here is Microsoft. And definitely did try to trade this off this move down here. No bueno so far, but this is why you nibble on that. Remember, this move down did fill the gap. So at least we got that going for us. Next area lower here, probably a 360 handle. We'll see if Microsoft actually rolls over here and tests lower, but clearly the chart not looking all that good and really not that far away from being oversold. Okay, looks like we're getting our data print here. So before I jump into that article, let me go ahead and flip over to the other workspace. Looks like we are trading up here. Okay, U.S. core CPI month over month for January, 0.2 versus the 0.3 estimate. U.S. core CPI year over year for January, 2.4 versus the 2.5 estimate. And core CPI month over month for June was 0.3 versus the 0.3 estimate. U.S. core CPI year over year for January, 2.5 versus the 2.5. So in line or lower, Brian, that sticky inflation, it just didn't happen. Market is trading up on this. S&P futures have gone red to green now, are now up 0.07%. NASDAQ also went red to green, 0.11%. And the Dow also red to green, 0.08. So we will see if this can hold here. I am seeing a lot of other stuff trade up here, and it's not just the big stuff. So looks like maybe we will have a nice day on our hands. We'll see. The VIX did hit a high of 21.92. It has since backed off to a 20.5. We'll see if that actually trades beneath the $20 level here later today. But okay, CPI print out of the way. We'll let that settle a little bit, and then we can come check in on it again. You guys can fight about if it's real or not. I'm not even going to waste time with that. Worst performing hyperscaler is, in fact, Microsoft. Microsoft lost the AI returns war to Meta's 454% surge since the ChatGPT launch. Despite its multi-billion-dollar bet and early lead in generative AI, Microsoft has emerged as the surprise laggard among the Magnificent Seven hyperscalers as investors begin to favor Meta's leaner, high yield AI strategy. Let me know, does anyone, are you folks starting to care about the CapEx spending when it comes to some of these big AI names? We had a discussion yesterday on Happy Hour, and it seems like there might be a little bit of a mixed feeling here. Fundamentals and value might be starting to matter again, and it would be amusing, I suppose would be the right word, that this just unbelievable AI spending is kind of what turned that around. Now, since the launch of ChatGPT on November 30th of 2022, Microsoft has unexpectedly become the worst performing stock among the tech cloud giants. Data through February of 2026 reveals that while Microsoft provided the foundational capital and cloud infrastructure for OpenAI, its stock has significantly underperformed the NASDAQ and trailed behind rivals like Meta. As of November 30th, 2022, Microsoft stock has risen 61.26%, from $249 to $401. But as of Thursday's close, Meta, on the other hand, rose from 110 to 649, which is a staggering 454% growth in the same time period. Venture capitalist Chamath Palihapitiya highlighted its disconnect on February 12th, noting the irony of current market standings. Quote, Microsoft has been the worst performing stock of the hyperscalers since November 30th of 2022. In the launch of ChatGPT. He added that looking strictly at stock returns, quote, you'd have thought Meta and not Microsoft was the one that owned 25% of OpenAI and ran the cloud for him, end quote. The divergence stems from how each giant monetizes AI. While Microsoft has committed to a massive capital expenditure cycle projected to exceed $140 billion annually and build out data centers, Meta has successfully integrated AI to immediately bolster its advertising core. By early 2026, Meta's revenue growth reached 24%, driven by AI-powered ad targeting. However, the stock was down 0.09% year to date. On the other hand, Microsoft faced a 15.03% drawdown in the same period. Investors have grown wary of Microsoft's capacity restraints, where demand for Azure AI currently exceeds the company's ability to supply it, despite the record-breaking spending. And remember, when we looked at the last earnings print, the whisper number, I think, was like 39.5%, 40%, and it came in slightly under that. And if we're, already at, peak ability to supply it, we wonder if that margin can even grow anymore. Analysts are now scrutinizing Microsoft's execution. Reports from firms like SemiAnalysis have labeled these delays a skill issue. They probably played Counter-Strike at one point, pointing to a slow integration of new AI models compared to the more agile competitors. Furthermore, Microsoft's high customer concentration risk remains a concern, with an estimated 45% of its $625 billion cloud backlog tied directly to OpenAI's commitments. As the AI hyper war transitions into a battle of bottom line results. Ooh, what a sentence right there. Props to the writer on that one. The market verdict is clear. Infrastructure ownership is no longer a guarantee of investor alpha. Okay. Hey, this is exciting. Day trader, next week, I start working full-time at my company developing AI automation and integration into our workflows. I'll be going deep into Copilot. Day trader, does that mean you're not going to join us anymore? Does that mean you're going to be tied up? Or does that mean you can still drop in and help share your professional expertise with our group? Let me know which one that is. Now, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for that. But folks, it's Friday. I was looking at the clock here, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe we're not going to have Mark. Maybe the Super Bowl was just not great for him, and we're not going to see him today. But as the true champion and warrior that Mark is, he's here today. Let's bring him on and see how it's going. Mark, I'm going to get it out of the way first here. I'm sorry about your Patriots, but I'm extremely happy to see you.
What do you mean? Was there some kind of game or something?
That was well done, Mark. I'm impressed with your ability and the straight face. That was impressive.
I'm sorry I'm late, man. I couldn't get into Slack. There's like all these.
Oh, yeah, the two-factor authentication. Yeah. That's
security codes and everything.
Yeah, that's the benefit of waking up at 4 a.m. You get that stuff out of the way.
All right. So anyway, what is going on in the world today?
Well, we just got the CPI print, and it looked in line or a little soft, and the market traded up there. But I'm hoping you see some stuff in the charts as well as your stock of the day that we can cover here. Let me go ahead and share your screen. We'll dive right into that.
Yes. Now, one of the things I think is really important to focus on, and I probably mentioned it last week, is what was going to happen with the financial sector. Now, notice this is our financial sector. This is the XLF ETF, the ETF that tracks the financial sector. Well, we toyed with this level. It looked like we were going to get through it for a day, but when we didn't, the financials came in. A lot of times when you get to a resistance level, you sell off. Now let's think about that. Resistance is this price level where for whatever reason, there's a lot of people that want to sell. Could be investors, could be traders, it could be retail, could be institutions. We don't know. And it really doesn't make a difference. But when you can't get through after a while, sometimes these sellers become impatient and anxious. They know the buyers are going to go to whoever's willing to sell at the lowest price. So what they do is they start to undercut each other, and you get this snowball effect. One guy might be like, well, hey, I was offered my shares at 53.90. the next person's like, that person's at 53.90. I don't want to miss this. I'm going to go to 53.80, and you get a snowball effect. So that's one of the main reasons why. I mean, I know all eyes are focused on tech, but that's one of the main reasons why we had this big sell-off here yesterday, and we're flat this morning. But what I'm going to be looking for some potential trading ideas is coming off of the financials here. Like if we get down to this bottom, and this is a mirror image of what we just talked about. A lot of times if you get to support and you don't break the support, some of the people who are buying start to get anxious because they know that the sellers are going to go to whoever is willing to pay the highest price. So someone might have been bidding 51 and they say, well, I really don't want to miss this. I'm going to go to 52. Next guy's like, I'm at 53. And you can actually even see yesterday, look at where the low trade was. I mean, it was almost right there.
Yeah.
So
you think we retest that today?
It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. But again, we don't want to try to catch the bottom, right? If it gets down a little bit lower, or even if it doesn't get that much lower, because effectively we got there yesterday and we start to rally, well, then we could look for some trading ideas over here in the financials. And I personally just like to go with these leveraged ETFs because FAZ. Because
FAZ, I think, is what you're looking for.
Actually,
FAS.
FAZ, if that support breaks.
Perfect.
FAS is if we rebound. Now, this is an ETF that's designed to move in the same direction as the financials, but by 3 times as much. So XLF is up 2%. This up here is up 6%. Here we have the opposite, which is the FAZ. So this is an inverse leveraged ETF that's designed to go in the opposite direction. So even if you're someone who doesn't trade options or futures, there are ways to make money in down markets, and that's to use some of these ETFs. And speaking of ETFs, I was looking at something yesterday. Now, I know, we are all Americans. Well, I don't know if we're not all Americans, but most people.
No, we got an international group in here.
Yeah. So see, in terms of international, look at some of these other countries year to date. This is year to date. South Korea is up 32%. Brazil is up 21%. This is in a month and a half. Whatever this one is, emerging markets is up 11.5. These are different emerging markets. Mexico is up 15.4%. Peru and global exposure ETF is up 21%. Seems like a lot of these things down in South America, a lot of the South American countries are really taking off. Look at this, Brazil, small cap Brazil up 16%. So I know it's just like it's easy to get too focused on one sector and kind of lose the forest for the trees. Well, it's kind of the same thing that we have to remember. There's a lot of these opportunities all over the world. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me, but I think the South Korean market led the performance in the world last year. I think it was doubled. And I have a student whose parents live in South Korea, and he went over there to visit them probably, I don't know, maybe June or July. And I remember him telling me, it was just like, Mark, he's like, it's unbelievable. Everyone over here is trading. Everywhere you go, people are on their phones trading. And it's not surprising when a market, doubles in value in the course of a year. So look at this. So since the beginning of last year, it's up 165%. Wow. Pretty amazing stuff.
This thing's been absolutely smashing. I actually have a buddy that I work with here that was really bullish on this really, really early. His victory laps are quite crispy, I got to say. So this thing's absolutely smashed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's good to pay attention to what's going on. Just like it's good to pay attention to what's going on in this other sectors. Like a lot of people, obviously technology is for the most part the most important sector because it's just the biggest. It's 35% of the entire S&P 500. So people get too focused on this. And when this was going on from last Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, well, let's take a look over here and see what the consumer staples sector was doing. And that money that was coming out of tech, well, it was going somewhere. And one of the places it was going was over here into consumer staples.
Mm-hmm.
And another place where it was going was over here into the industrial sector, which had a pretty decent reversal yesterday. But as you can see, it was going up. So there's always a bull market somewhere. And my experience teaching retail students is a lot of them, they just get too hyper focused. And now that's okay. I mean, it's okay if you want to have a style where you just focus on one sector or even one stock. I mean, I know people that all they do is trade the Qs or all they do is trade the SPYs.
Same. And they do quite well at, there are others, even stocks like Tesla. Like there are a number of people that I've been following for years that pretty much just trade Tesla and do quite well with it.
Yeah, it's like anything in the market. There's pluses and cons to everything. Wow, look at this. This is the Japanese market. Someone just pointed out.
Yeah, that was Kathy. Kathy's got a sharp eye for the stuff that has strength. There's no question.
Yeah, she's 17. I wish Kathy told me about this 2 months ago, but that's okay, Kathy. We'll let it go this time.
Mark. Kathy, if Mark gets to busting on you too much, you could just bring up the Patriots. I'm sorry. We're trying to have fun here.
I hear you. Well, the quarterback always gets all the blame, right? Or the credit. But I can't think of his name now. The offensive line on the left side there, either the guard or
Campbell, yeah.
They let the guy get by, I think 17 times.
He was hurt. It came out after the game that he was hurt. He's working on, I think, like one leg or something like that.
Oh, please, big baby. And then he didn't want to speak to the media afterwards. But you could be the greatest quarterback in the world. You could be Tom Brady times 50. If you're getting sacked every play, you're not going to have a good game. So that's kind of my take on that. All right, so should we take some questions from the?
Yeah. What do you folks want to see here? I mean, we've reviewed a couple of charts here. You know what? I actually kind of hinted at this earlier. I don't know if the chat wants to see this. I would assume so, but I don't know for sure. Can we take a look at Apple?
Oh, all right. So that's kind of a nasty reversal there.
I was going to say, one of the things I had said earlier here is that this is a very un-Apple-like candle. And so I'm wondering maybe what's the next move? Where are we going next here? Where's the next viable support? Is it that next line that's right there at about, 260 it looks like?
I would even think that we're right there. We're there now.
Okay. So watch Apple today.
Yeah, you see this little top here? Now, this is a pretty instructive chart in the sense that there's the old expression, gaps tend to refill. And you can see that here. So we gapped here, and then we reversed, and we refilled the gap. And we see it here too. So this technically isn't a gap, but it's the same principle in that if a stock moves through price levels quickly in one direction, and then it eventually reverses and gets back to those same price levels going in the opposite direction, it can move quickly right back through them. That's where the expression gaps tend to refill comes from. One of the main reasons why we have resistance in a market is because we have remorseful buyers trying to sell things on the way up. Now, when you move really quickly like this through prices, you don't have a lot of time for there to be this big group or concentration of people who bought who are going to be trying to sell on the way back up. So when the buyers come in, they have a hard time finding sellers. Here, because we traded here, we spent a little bit of time trading, there was more sell interest here. Now, this is the same principle, but it's the mirror image. One of the main reasons why you get support is you get remorseful sellers trying to buy things back. So when you move through price levels really quickly like this, there's just not a lot of time for this big concentration of remorseful sellers to be out there who are going to be trying to buy shares back on the way down. So when the sellers come in, they have a hard time finding buyers and they have to really push the price lower. So, yeah.
Let me ask you just really quick. So you're looking at this level here. Are you waiting till like the end of the day till you can make maybe more of an educated decision on where this candle closes, or is this something where you're just maybe adding in the morning and setting a stop or something?
No, I mean, I would be watching it. I don't know if I would necessarily wait for the end of the day. It depends on the price action, right? I mean, it might do nothing all day and it could just sit here to the close, in which case, there would be nothing to do. But if I don't care whether it's at 10 in the morning or at 11:30 or at 2, if this thing starts to catch a bid here, you'll
Mm-hmm.
know it when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I would think about getting in. But remember, we don't want to trade this stuff in isolation. Stocks don't trade in isolation. They usually have something to do with the sector and what's going on in the sector here. So here's the sector, and I mean, there could be a little bit more downside here, right? To there. I mean, look at how precise this sell-off was. Look at where it stopped. It was like
Yeah.
right there. So let's just take a quick look at some of these other big tech companies like Nvidia.
Perfect. We could also probably throw on Amazon and Netflix on there, as those were two requests from the chat. Maybe Tesla as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, so like Nvidia doesn't really, I mean, to me, this kind of looks like, whoops. All right. Let me put in a new line here. Something is not working. Yeah, so we're at this kind of resistance. And this here this is your old bearish engulfing pattern here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of more downside here. In yesterday morning, you would have looked at this and said, gee, this is going to be an up day. We're opening at a higher price than we
Yep.
closed the day before. But what happened by the close? The sellers came and pushed it all the way back down here, right? So this looks kind of flattish this morning. And then I guess Microsoft, let's see what Microsoft is doing.
Nothing great.
Yeah, Microsoft is kind of just hanging above this support. So I think, like I said this morning before, I think it's going to be all about the financials. And if the financials can reverse and start to move higher, that's going to I believe that would move the entire market higher.
Okay.
So this is what we want to watch right here is XLF and how does it navigate this, let's call it 51.5 level. So then we could start, what are the big companies in here? Well, we can come and look at the sector, right? We can go and look at the stocks that are within the sector. And the issue with the financials, not that it's an issue, but it's a huge sector. I think there's like 75 or 80 stocks in it. So if you're thinking, oh gee, the financial sector is a good place to trade, let me go see if I can find some companies over there. Well, there's just a lot of them, right? So that's why I kind of like that financial leveraged ETF. But
Mm-hmm.
but the banks were doing really well. So we could look at the whoops, sorry here. And this is
All right.
something I would like to kind of emphasize. I don't know if you all remember, but I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, everyone was talking about all these issues in the banks, and the banks had all this bad credit and blah, 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 and the banking system was going to collapse. Well, if you listen to the news, that could get you pretty scared. But if you actually stopped and looked at the chart, that was going on like right around here. It's like, well, the market knows more than all of us put together, and the market is telling us there's really nothing wrong going on over here in the bank. So I think that this is just a little bit of hype. Just like 2 months ago, the narrative was the old yen carry trade was going to make
Mm-hmm.
the market crash. Now the reason why people are saying that is because if we go back to 24 in July, there was a huge sell-off in the dollar yen carry trade, right? Real volatility, real big sell-off. And then in August, the S&P was down about 10%. So people started to think, well, all right, the carry trade, all it really means is you borrow money in one country at a cheaper rate and you invest it in another country at a higher rate. So the U.S. was cutting rates. Japan was raising rates for the first time in like 3 decades. So all this went around. Now, the yen carry trade is back. But if you looked at the currency market, there was just nothing going on. The currency was completely flat. And that told me that there was nothing to worry about. So if you listen to some of these talking heads or these pundits, remember, if it's a boring headline, no one's going to click on it.
That's right.
No one's going to click on, hey, nothing happened today. And I can actually show
and everything's okay. Nothing happened and there's no emergency. Not going to get you the clicks. That's right.
Yeah, and I want to kind of show you my Substack. It wasn't working yesterday. There was some kind of Substack problem. But I just want to show you something that I put out on it.
Okay.
Substack, site unavailable. Okay, here we go. So I just wanted to kind of put this out here for this absurdity. Now let's look at this headline here. All right. So PayPal maintain outperform at McGuire. So anyway, these guys had an outperform and they had $100 target price on it.
And they cut it to 58.
And they cut it to 58 and it's still an outperform. So, that's a pretty big cut.
It's almost 50%.
It's like, oh, I guess we were wrong. It's not worth $100. It's worth 58. Now, the reason why this research, Wall Street research, tends to be tainted, and here's why. Because people like McGuire, who are a brokerage firm and an investment banker, well, they make money by putting out research. That's one of the ways they make money. The clients look at the research. The clients think, all right, I got some great insight out of this research report you put out. So now I'm going to throw some trades your way, and you're going to get some of our commission business. Now, these firms that put out research, most of them, whether Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, they also have investment banking divisions, and investment banking brings in a lot more money than selling research. So let's just say the analyst over here at McGuire who's following PayPal thinks, all right, this stock sucks and it should go out, and this company's worth $2 a share. And they put a sell on it and it's $2 a share. Now, let's just say you're the CEO or the CFO at PayPal and you say to yourself, I'd like to do a bond offering. We need to hire an investment banker. Who are we going to hire? Gee, let's see who follows our stock. Oh, these guys got a sell on it, $2 target price. You think they're going to get the call? No. The firm that says these guys are the greatest things since sliced bread, super, super duper buy, $1 zillion price target, they're the ones who get the call. So the last time I saw, I would imagine it's still very similar, only 6% of recommendations on Wall Street are sells. So if I see a sell recommendation, I pay attention because they're pretty unusual. But if I see,
that's good.
If I see an upgrade or someone reiterates buy, it's pretty much irrelevant.
Reiterations and price target changes seem to be the weakest hitting for me. New initiations, upgrades, or downgrades seem to really do it.
Yeah, sometimes they move, but I just thought that was kind of funny.
It is, yeah.
All right, someone asked about Tesla.
Yep. And Netflix.
Yeah, Tesla. As a trader, I just don't see much here. It just looks like it's not really doing it. Yeah, it's unchanged in the pre-market. And then Netflix.
So Tesla right now is a wait and see, right? You want to wait till one of those levels comes in before you're even considering it. It's just kind of in no man's land right now.
Yeah, that's a wait and see. Netflix, I don't know, man. This thing looks like obviously we got to this support held for a week and broke that. But I don't know. This is a stock where I would be thinking, well, let me get rid of all this stuff over here. Boy, maybe remember we want to look for former levels where the price trend changed. So maybe like right around there. But again, this is the type of thing where you don't want to try to catch the fallen knife. Maybe it reverses from here. Maybe it gets to there and reverses. Maybe it gets all the way down there. The key is not to try to catch the bottom. It's to buy it on the way up. It's counterintuitive. I think I said it last week, but traders who lose money buy things, just because it's down. It's down 20%. I'm going to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Every stock in the history of mankind that's ever been down 50% at what time was down 20%, right? So you don't want to buy it just because it's down. Another problem traders have is they sell their winners too soon. They sell it just because it's up. It's up 20%. I'm going to sell it. Well, every stock in the history of mankind that's ever been up 50% was up 20% at one point. So generally speaking, you want to buy something when it's reversing off of a level on its way up. Or if you're a breakout trader, you want to buy something that's breaking out that's on its way up. In terms of selling, well, let's just say you buy this trade and it's working and it's going your way and you don't know where to sell it and you're just riding it. And then all of a sudden it reverses by, say, 1% and it starts going down. Well, that would be a valid place to have a sell strategy. The point is you're selling it not as it's going up. You're not trying to top tick it. You're waiting for it to roll over and then selling it. So you give up maybe a point or two on the upside, but you put the odds much better in your favor. Just like on the downside, you might have to pay up $1 or $2, but you put the odds more in your favor.
Okay. If you got a jet, you can jet. If not, I'd say Coinbase.
All right. I'll do a quick Coinbase, but I do have a 9 meeting.
Yep, no problem. They reported earnings. That's the reason I'm trying to squeeze it in here.
Yeah, because they've been on my radar screen for a while.
And look at that. Look at the area that it's at. They reported earnings. They're bouncing here. This. I'm so glad you have time for this.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't realize that they were reporting earnings, but what caught my attention here was clear support, oversold, and now it looks like it's reversing. Yeah, so that, I mean, to me, that looks like a pretty decent idea there.
Okay. There you go, Acorns. All right, Mark, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, and let's go, UConn Huskies basketball, because college basketball is the only sport that really matters.
Well, that's happening, right? And we're not far away from the big dance here in March. But, Mark, this is the way I handle life. After the Super Bowl ends, I just keep telling myself, boy, it's almost golf season.
I actually busted out my mat on my driveway, and I'm going to be hitting some balls in the snow later.
Hey, all right. Hopefully they're yellow so you can find them.
I do use yellow balls because I don't have very good eyes, and I have such a hard time finding a white ball when I'm playing. If I see it, if I a yellow ball, it just like sticks right out.
Yeah, there's a ton of white balls out there. There's not as many yellow. I get it. All right, yeah. Mark, really good stuff here on a Friday again. Appreciate you. All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you all next week.
That is Mark Putrino. Be sure to sign up for his Substack. He has a lot of good content there. And as you can see, he is historically inclined. So you can get some education in there along with some good ideas, really good chart breakdowns here today, too, on the stocks that y'all care about. So, all right, folks. 13's ready to go. He's probably chomping at the bit as he normally is. But you know what? He's going to have to wait just a little bit longer because we got 2 tweets to cover. All right. First one here is from our friend Tom Lee. And this one is about the Mr. Beast announcement about I think, Beast Financial Services. They acquired the app Step. Tom Lee here saying that this is arguably the Gen Z, Gen Alpha bank of the future. This generation is set to inherit trillions in the next few decades. And he throws in at the end there that Ethereum is the future of finance, hashtag BMNR. So first of all, I know BMNR is fairly popular amongst our group. Let me know what you think about that. Is long-term hold? Are we looking to add there? Are you watching crypto to add there? But then also, what do you think about his prediction here for Mr. Beast? I would say I could absolutely see this happening. And if this was a public stock, I would say all you Webull bulls out there, forget it. This is going to be it. Now we'll see what happens as this shakes out here. But I think Tom Lee might be on to something in terms of how popular Beast Financial Services may be. Producer, next tweet. Next one here. I had to pinch myself to make sure that I wasn't dreaming or in opposite land, but I would agree here with Ross Gerber. Still doesn't feel right to say. I feel like people are assuming new AI companies will disrupt legacy players, but it's not so simple. In fact, legacy players that have the most to gain from AI adoption, it will be a combination of new AI companies working together with legacy players, and margins will only grow. I think this is exactly right. I think that we run the risk of saying, well, the AI tech or the legacy tech that's out of favor now, and it's all going to be all these new companies. That's not what we've seen. That historically is not what we've seen. And I think Ross is absolutely right here. As AI adoption grows, especially if it becomes really productive or productivity increases substantially, I think some of the biggest beneficiaries are going to be some of these legacy tech companies. Think companies like Apple. We had Gene Munster. I was quoting Gene Munster earlier this week saying, hey, I know they're behind on Apple Intelligence, but that actually still represents a really good opportunity. And I think that I think Ross is spot on here. And to me, that's notable. All right, let's go ahead and do our pre-market pulse. Whenever I can find the graphic. Here we go. $13. Happy Friday, dude.
Hey, the week's over. Let's have a good day.
Well, not quite. We are almost at Mice Down Drinks Up time, but we are at the last day here, and we had a CPI print that was not horrible and is not sending the market into oblivion. So that's good. What do you want to take a look at here? Do you want to do the movers? Do you want to do some bigger stocks? Do you have anything else on your radar?
There's some interesting things happening with the movers. That CPI, I think the devil's in the details. If you look at that a little bit more closely, I think there's some real concerning items in there, but we can get into that later. What's this one you have up here first? EX, really?
No, this was from me doing it earlier. I haven't clicked on any of these. Expedia reported earnings, by the way. As far as the movers, the first one that I have here is Moolec. This is ticker MLEC. This is Moolec Science. Stock closed at about $5 yesterday, is up 108%. We have another 100% runner, 13. Catalyst here, Moolec Sciences subsidiary announces data from crushing process of U.S. Glasso confirms a 45% gamma linoleic acid concentration. Okay, I'm going to need Benzinga AI to help me with this. I have no idea what this means. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in there when I get a little bit more time. Sorry, guys. Not a medical guy there. 4.15% of the float is shorted with 1 day to cover. On average, the stock trades 314,000 shares. Today, it's traded 13 million. This is a micro float, though, under 1 million shares in the float, coming in at 573,000. So this thing can move, and it already has. Yep. 13. Can you save me from this one?
Well, this one we traded before, and it was after we had seen that they had just recently done a reverse split because they're in the process of trying to regain NASDAQ compliance. They recently just received an extension to June 29th to regain compliance because, and this is where it's going to get a little interesting, there is a company that they were, I think, the majority owner of. It's one of their subsidiaries. You know it. It's called Bioceres.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That company is actually going through bankruptcy proceedings right now.
Oh, no.
So what has happened is that this company, Moolec, being that they were they were the parent company, they are getting millions from the Bioceres derecognition to the tune of, let me just pull this up here. They are getting 91 million associated with a loss of control from Bioceres and an additional gain of approximately 5.2 million also associated with the loss of control from Bioceres LLC. So there's Bioceres South America and Bioceres LLC. They're getting millions from this derecognition. Now, that was one of the big things that allowed their NASDAQ extension to continue through June 29th, which is when they have to regain that compliance. I'm thinking they're gonna with this, with those millions now, because that does satisfy those requirements. So I think that it's a little bit more than just this news about the acid concentration. I think that's it's causing this to move today. But this other news buried in here from late last month, I also think is one of the reasons why we're starting to see this move better, because the valuation makes a lot more sense, especially when you because we don't have that money on the balance sheet yet, but they're supposed to be getting it. So I think that's another reason why this could be going here today.
Okay.
As far as levels go, we were just I haven't been speaking quickly enough because it was just starting to move. Knocking on the door of $13 right now. Let me see if there's any spots here I can identify for resistance. We are above a bunch of stuff right now, actually. Looks like if we can continue to go higher, there's going to be some resistance in the 16 handle. I don't know if we'll see a whole lot more before then. Maybe we start coming back in now. But this $13 area, I can see how there is some resistance there, but I think the bigger resistance is going to be higher up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this climbed a little bit higher before it found some stiffer resistance.
Okay, and really quickly, I did throw this into the AI here, and this is helpful. Moolec is announcing that its engineered safflower crop in the U.S. has successfully produced a very high level of gamma linoleic acid, or GLA, at full commercial scale, and this helps prove the technology works in real-world farming and processing and strengthens its position in the nutrient and supplements market.
And how does
that's why that was a positive.
So, and that kind of makes a lot of sense now about how Bioceres is tied to this.
Exactly. So shout out to the AI there, because I don't know if I would have been able to make that connection that quickly without doing some more reading. Shout out to you for looking into that too.
We got to bring this up to our friend
Andy.
in Happy Hour.
Yeah, no question. No question.
Super interesting.
Yeah, we might. Yeah, we'll do that. I might even text him today. We'll see if there's an opportunity that this leads to. Okay, really good breakdown there, 13.
Sure.
Starting off with a bang here. I'll take that for sure. Okay, next here. This is a company we're both familiar with. In fact, my keyboard is made by this company. This is Corsair Gaming. Ticker is CRSR here. Corsair Gaming shares are trading higher after the company reported better than expected Q4 financial results. Now, first of all, 650 is very, very clearly a spot here. This is the impulse move that stopped it. It traded back up here during the pre-market, and it was kind of rejected. But here's the other thing that I want to mention. The stock has been extremely beaten down. And so maybe, especially with this being a customer-facing company here, or connected to the customer, perhaps this is the time when it turns around. Now, you'll notice that this pop here, where it stopped us last night and stopped us again here today, this was a former support level. Yep. And this is now going to be resistance. So we're definitely going to net 650. We are definitely going to need to take that. It's probably going to need to happen on volume. We'll see if we get through it. 13, I'm sure you've got some other stuff here. It looks like there's a trend line on here, but I'll wait for you to cover that. Let me go ahead and actually give you the results. 43-cent EPS beat the 27-cent estimate. Nice healthy beat there. And sales of $436.85 million beat the $421.99 million. Corsair Gaming, could this have been from the memory increase? Any remaining stock or remaining products that they have? Maybe they saw an outsized bump?
I don't know how tied to the memory this would be. I know that there's going to be a significant number of semiconductors used in their products, but not necessarily to the scale that you would see in whole rigs and towers and server racks. So I don't necessarily think that that's that we're seeing this increase. You're looking at an increase in the sales because of the
because the way I'm thinking about, I have Corsair memory in my computer, and so the way
their memory, okay, yeah.
So the way I'm thinking about this 13 is that they probably had product left over, and as the prices continued to move higher, they paid the same amount for those products, so they're selling them at higher revenue. That would increase margins. That would increase profit. I'm just wondering. I don't actually know. Let me see. Let me see if AI can help us with this.
Maybe I think you could be right about that. I just when I look at Corsair, I think more of their peripherals. So the mouses, keyboards, headsets. That's the stuff that I'm actually going to be getting later on to replace my my Razer stuff, which is crap now. But I think you could be right, because when they guided lower than what the estimates were. So maybe they have inventory that they've been trying to sell through. And when you look at the beat that this company had on their earnings, the EPS was much higher than the estimates. And taking those two things into context, it might be like a one-time thing to make your point about the memory. But they, it's still trading higher. And they just had some really good earnings results. And it looks like they're on a much more sustainable path to profitability because, they've been kind of losing money up until, I think, last year. So as far as the chart goes.
Well, hang on. I've got results are in, buddy. Results are in. Yes. The report and related earnings commentary explicitly link Corsair's stronger Q4 and full year 25 results to higher RAM prices and demand for memory products. More specifically, this is how it factored into the report. The press release highlights that gaming components and systems growth was spurred by demand for memory, end quote.
So people are trying to build before they get too priced out.
And notes that memory revenue in Q4 grew about 24% year over year. Management went on to state that memory was a major contributor to the Q4 margins lift because DRAM prices went up substantially from October to December, creating favorable inventory margins as Corsair sold stock purchased at lower costs in a rising price environment. That is exactly what I said.
You completely nailed it.
Okay. Sick.
Completely nailed it. So I guess that's my question, though, is about their guidance. Do they have inventory still, or is this just a one-time thing?
And I don't think they released that. Let me actually ask the follow-up question. Do they still have inventory?
Yeah,
I don't.
When you look at their guidance and see how it's lower, it kind of makes me think, well, maybe they don't have that high, margin memory anymore.
And so Acorns, you're kind of wondering like exactly where my brain is going. Like, do you think this is going to come back in? Was this a one-time thing? Now, if they've run out of inventory, yes, management says their memory inventory position is still strong and should support demand well into 2026. Okay, right there, I think if this thing can break 650, you might have something on your hands here.
Yep, I would agree with that. Looking at the daily chart on my broker here, we have a 65-day EMA at 595, so we're clearly past that. The next resistance area we might get to, if we can, climb up there, is 7, and then there's a bit of a gap fill on the way up to 725, where we have the 200-day EMA, which is going to probably provide some even stiffer resistance. So that might be where we end up going here today. I'm not going to speculate on what the price action is going to look like, but 7 and 725 certainly stand out from here.
Okay. Really good stuff there. Corsair, boy, this movers, you're right. This was so much better than it was the last couple of days.
And we're not done.
Let's go. I love that. I absolutely love that. Next here is TPH. Tri-Point Homes is trading higher. The company will be acquired by Sumitomo. We talked about that earlier. No trade here. Congrats if you had it.
But I think it's very, very interesting that a forestry company, a wood company, would be acquiring this, and it kind of makes me think, well, what's the angle here? Are they just trying to also kind of vertically integrate everything from the tree to turnkey? You know what I'm saying? Like, are they trying to get into the home building business and trying to cut out the middlemen between going from lumberjacking and collecting all the lumber to building the homes? This seems like it's going to streamline a lot of things for the company. So I'm just kind of wondering if this is something we're going to end up seeing more of, like some of these home builders get picked up by other supply chain companies in the industry. Does that kind of make sense of what I'm saying?
Yeah, it absolutely does. This is something that we have been talking about. They're trying to do anything they can to try and either build more or lower the cost, get people in. So yeah, that we'll see. That makes a lot of sense. I wonder if this does lead to other. Maybe there's other stocks that we could look at for. I don't know. I don't know offhand.
So Tri-Point Homes, they're a premium home builder. It would, we could look at DR Horton, even though I don't think they're going to be bought out. There's also Toll Brothers and
Pulte. I don't think it's going to get bought out.
I would just start looking at those home builders, and I don't know what Tri-Point was really doing before today. Was it kind of sinking? It was going sideways. Not too bad. They looked like they were doing okay. So maybe it could be literally any company. This company, Tri-Point, was doing great actually. Looking at their financials, it could be any home builder. We could look at all of them.
Okay, Acorns here saying, are you saying TPH is done? What we're saying is that it's getting acquired, and there's not going to be much action on this here today.
Yeah, exactly what we're saying. This is done. We're just kind of talking a little speculation about what this acquisition could be about.
Okay. And someone asked earlier if this stream also goes to X. Yes, we stream on YouTube, X, and Twitch. You can join us any way that you'd like. YouTube seems to be the main one, although we do get a lot of viewers from X. All right, next one here is iMux. This is Immunic. We've traded this a whole bunch of times in the past. Immunic shares are trading higher. The company reported the pricing of a $400 million private placement. The stock traded up to about 139. That's going to be your pre-market high. It did so on some pretty good volume. It's hugging the VWAP right now. We'll see if that volume really kind of comes in or if it expands at all. Quick peek at the short interest on this name, 5.55% with 4.5 days to cover. So not terribly high short interest, but there's some. So factor it in. On average, stock trades 1.6 million shares. Today, it's traded 24.69 million shares. And the float on this was 118.5 million. 13, what do you think here on IMUX? And if you don't mind, I'm actually going to step away for just 1 sec, and I will be right back.
Sounds good. So, yeah, looking at their balance sheet, they clearly needed to raise the capital because they lose $25 million every quarter, and they don't have any revenue. So, what do you know? A clear biotech. So that's good news that they got the financing out of the way, so we don't have to worry or kind of question whether or not they're going to need to raise capital or issue make an offering or issue more shares. That's out of the way. So now we have. And that 400 million, by the way, this was an subscribed private placement. So there's enthusiasm for this. And this is meant to fund phase 3 of their MS trial. So obviously they're going to be going through a lot of capital expenditure as these clinical trials, as they go on, can become more and more expensive. Looking at the chart here, we had a pop up to 134, came back in and have gone sideways since. And I would say that as long as we hold this VWAP here, which I have at 106, we should be able to try and push back up towards 115, which is where I currently see the resistance. If we can clear that, then maybe we go back up towards the 134. What's the float on this again? It is 118 million. So that kind of makes me a little bit concerned about just how high we're going to go with this out of the open. Lots of times when it comes to heavier floats, like over 100 million or so, they do tend to give some kind of movement early on, but as volume goes away, these things leak a lot. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here with IMUX. It's great that they've got this cash without having to dilute their shares, but that is a heavy float nonetheless, and this is going to be cash going towards a massive clinical trial.
Okay. All right, really good breakdown there on IMUX. We'll see what that has in store for us. I noticed that this stock is kind of making a move recently here. This is VTAC. It's Catheter Precision. Let's see if there's a news catalyst here. Catheter Precision secures $36.5 million in strategic institutional financing to accelerate growth. That's notable because the market cap in this company is 2.2 million. Float on this is 1.65 million. On average, it trades 61,000 shares. It's done just over 600,000 here today. Let's see what we got short interest wise. 1.22% with 1 day to cover. So not really a whole lot in there. 13, I know this just started moving. You might not have anything on this, but does anything jump off the chart for you?
Not necessarily off the chart. I found the news to be more interesting because a week ago yesterday, there was an announcement that this company would be featured in live cases at Scripps Structural Heart Intervention and Imaging 2026 conference occurring from February 11th to 13th. That's today. I think that's where they got, that's where they announced or they provided information on the $36.5 billion strategic institutional financing. So I thought that was interesting that we had a bit of a heads up. And I wanted to point that out because we are given these little breadcrumbs every now and then, especially with these biotechs and some of these other tech companies, about a presentation or some kind of announcement that they're going to have at a conference. So when you see these, it's probably a really good idea to mark these off on your calendar because here we have this mover now going on that exact, moving off news presented at that exact conference. So they don't need cash anymore because when I looked at their balance sheet and their income statement, they certainly needed it. But with 1.65 million shares in the float, this should, provide some good movement. and maybe not so much in the pre-market right now, but we'll see what happens once we open here in about 7 minutes. If we do get some upside here, I'm thinking that we're probably going to run into an area at about 175. That could be a little bit tough, and there's a lot of consolidation from basically the entirety of this month right in this area from about 175 to the 210. So We'll have to see what we end up getting there. But that's the news with VTech, and I think we just need to kind of wait and see what happens out of the gate with this one.
Okay. Really good stuff there. I actually thought we might not have much on that yet, but you outdid yourself again. 13, you have a habit of doing that.
But that's all I've got for now.
Okay. Well, really quickly, someone asked about Rivian earlier, so we might as well take a look at this. Rivian, of course, reported earnings. Rivian automotive shares are trading higher after the company reported better than expected Q4 financial results. Also, Deutsche Bank upgraded the stock from hold to buy and raise the price target from 16 to 23. So not only are you getting the good earnings print, but you're getting a little bit more of a follow through here on Rivian. I would imagine 18 would be a important level. Let's see if that's right. Yeah. So yes. So right up here. Yes. Right up here. 18. We have dealt with this level before. Rivian actually punched through this level once before retrading back down to the downside. So we'll see here on Rivian. Quick peek at the short interest, still elevated. 13.71% of the float shorted with 6.36 days to cover. Maybe some squeeze action here. Stocks up 25% on the back of that earnings and that upgrade. You have any thoughts here on Rivian 13?
I'm giving it the Homelander grimace.
The Homelander grimace. Okay.
You know the one I put in there. That's a new indicator, by the way. I'll get to that later, though. Rivian, I have a hard time with this one because of how much money they lose.
Yeah, that's always been my biggest gripe.
Yeah, this thing, I just can't get behind it with this, just the amount of money it loses every quarter. I think what you're seeing is maybe more of a short squeeze. I mean, yeah, the earnings were better than expected, but when I look at the earnings and I see that, the result was their EPS was a negative 54 cents versus a negative 68 cents. The applause is, wow, you didn't lose as much this time, in my mind. So I'm really not enthusiastic about this earnings report. I get the sense that this is more about the high short interest and kind of a little bit of a squeeze here. I don't know how high this is going to go. Let me look at the chart. Maybe I can give.
And really quickly, while you're looking at the chart, sounds like Izzy agrees with you here. Izzy saying, Rivian, the R2 doesn't come out until 2027, so I have no idea why the big move. As you're outlining here, perhaps the short interest is playing into that.
So we have cleared a couple of EMAs. Maybe 18 is where we go up to. If I'm looking at a daily chart here, that was a resistance area back from November of last year. We struggled to get through that area until finally in December, in the middle of December, we blasted off. That took us up to 22.69, and we leaked the entire time since then. So here we are with another pop, and we're beyond some of these really significant moving averages, the 65 EMA and the 200 EMA. But when I look at $18, I'm thinking that might be the spot we go to, and then we'll have to see what happens there. I don't know that we're going to go a whole lot higher.
Okay. Okay, we've got 3 minutes here. JDZG, this was a mover yesterday. It's a mover again here today. I don't think there was anything new on this. No, nothing new on this. So just continuation, relative volume, as you often say, from yesterday. The coin long was the next ETF, frankly, on this list, but Bros also on this list. I wanted to get to this before we ran out of time here. Dutch Bros shares trading higher after the company reported better than expected Q4 financial results. This is up by nearly 17%. We are no stranger to seeing Dutch Bros make huge moves on a good piece of earnings. And Jay was out here with some intel earlier. Bros, ANET, Roku, and Rivian all were at the lower end of the channels. And you can see that right here on the screen. Anything good, and they got bought. And that is, we are seeing that across the board in all of those tickers there, Jay. And Bros is one of them. So we'll see here. 13, I'd like to know what you think on the chart. We basically popped up to a 59 handle. This is about midway through that recent range. I have the top of that up there at 65. Unsure if that's capable of being reached today. 11.39% of the float shorted with 2.13 days to cover. Average volume just shy of 4 million. Today, we're just shy of 1 million here in the pre-market. I suspect that we are going to trade above that. What do you think on Bros?
I think the Bros earnings report is probably one of the biggest lifelines that they possibly could have wished for, because this thing looks like it was about to fall through the 500-day SMA just before they had earnings. We've been kind of tested at that area since October. We finally hit it, just recently, and yesterday we closed beneath it. So I think it's very fortunate that they had good earnings, but they also had some short interest. So a little bit of a squeeze. Not really the days to cover, but the short interest is there. So if this does come back up, I mean we're on the doorstep of the 200-day SMA. And I don't know what's going to happen up there. Maybe we do go through it, and there could be a bit of a rally that this goes on, I would say. But I don't know that it's going to go a whole lot higher than the 70s.
Okay.
That's if we can get above the 200-day SMA. So that's what I'd be looking for. We get above the 200-day SMA. Maybe there's a little bit of a run up to the 70s before we get into some really big resistance.
Okay. Really good stuff. We are less than a minute till we open. I'm going to flip over to the main workspace. You guys did mention, I saw you mentioning Ondas here. Ondas did pop. Oh, we're open actually. How about that?
All right. Let's go.
And oh my. So CRSR, that thing just right out of the open, right through 650 here. I'm definitely not going to chase this. I did not buy in the pre-market. So I'll see if this comes back in here. Definitely not going to chase that green move, but as we outlined here, there might be some more upside ahead.
And that's a break of a trend line. If you use the after hours high versus the pre-market high, that was a break over that. So depending on what happens here with this current candle, we would likely want to see a back test of this trend line as support. Haven't seen a real big pullback yet on this candle. It almost did, but we need to wait for this to come in a little bit more, because it looks like it's still trying to push up.
Yeah, I think at this point now, maybe it tries 7, but maybe waiting for a pullback on this, probably the smart thing here.
Yeah.
So, okay, good stuff there. CRSR, we talked about that in the pre-market that ran out of the gate. Let's check in on Rivian as well. I clicked on it. What happened?
That's down, coming to the 65 EMA. It got support from that earlier this morning. Didn't quite touch it, but it is trying to recapture VWAP right now.
Okay, Reddit, this is trading higher here. MLEC, this was on our movers list. This is actually above the VWAP here. Oh no, I got this stupid thing stuck here again. Let me see if I can get rid of this.
Yeah, Corsair is still trying to push higher. It just went a slightly, I think I made a slightly higher print just now at 693. Now it's starting to come back in some more.
Okay, now we have this trend line here, 654. So that's right by that breakout spot. So a back test and hold of that probably would actually make for an all right long. Also, one more thing here. We're talking about Ondas real quick, or I had mentioned it. You guys mentioned it too. We did have some news here, and this actually looks pretty good. So Ondas here secures a new multi-million-dollar European order for the Iron Drone Raider to protect civil infrastructure following successful deployment at a major international airport. This is exactly what we were talking about. We talked about the El Paso incident on Happy Hour. I said that this actually might be a positive for Ondas because they're one of the leaders there in anti-drone tech, and it looks like that's exactly what we're getting here. So good news there. Ondas traded up. It's pulling a little bit off of that. We see this action all the time, but that's what's going on there.
So here we go. Corsair. This is coming up to the $7 area where I thought we might see some resistance. There's a big seller in the way. We pushed past him. That 725 area is where the 200-day EMA is. I think that's where we might find some more resistance if we can get past the $7 seller.
Okay. And it's actually up at 7 right now. I do see that seller. There you go. And through now, 13. Nice. Through on Corsair. Bang.
709. Still some. Okay, so now I'm seeing some size appear at 725 like we were expecting. So if this continues to climb, I think that's where we're going to run into a little bit of resistance here. We're still climbing.
Okay.
718. Looking
Scalp
for 725.
one done on Corsair.
And this thing has got a lot of a lot of volume. It might even be able to go through 725.
So this is what I was the most worried about. I certainly don't want to chase with a bigger position. A scalping a momentum move up, not the same as trying to swing it throughout the day.
Yep.
We're right at the 725 here. I'm almost wondering if we get this pullback.
We did get a little bit higher, went to 730. Now we're starting to pull a little bit. Let's see what happens if we go under 7. Because if we go under 7, I think we nailed it.
You okay?
Yeah, I think my power just went out, so my battery backup was screaming at me.
Look, I love how just NBD it is for 13 that the power went out. That's absolutely awesome. All right.
Mulek is halted to the downside.
Uh-oh. Yep.
And then
that printer restarted. Yeah, I know that sound.
On. So, just a dip somewhere.
Okay, Rivian, we talked about 18 here. Looks like Rivian stopped just shy of that. We'll see if we have the strength to actually test 18, maybe even go through it. Let's see. I'll check back in on Corsair here in a little bit. IMUX, this is actually back at the VWAP. Let's see if it holds that 109 area. Coinbase, this is one that we had talked about earlier. Looks like this is giving back some of its pop, but trying to hold 150, which we identified as a key level. That was a horizontal line that goes back a ways, if we recall correctly. Fastly, this is one of our big winners from yesterday. This might be trying to trade up and test 18. Someone actually asked about Wendy's earlier. Looks like Wendy's reported earnings dropped and has now gone red to green and is higher by 5% here. I wasn't prepared or on that one at all.
Fastly, I think this is moving on relative volume. I mentioned that yesterday in Happy Hour. I think this may not have a whole lot. We could see the highs from yesterday, but I don't know if it's going to be a whole lot more than that.
Buffalo the Bicycle says the Hot Pocket is ready. Try the Hot Pockets. They're delicious. Dr. Evil. Okay. Anyway, what else are you guys looking at out there? I know we had kind of a nice move here. It looks like Bitcoin, well, MSTU. Yeah. Okay, so this is the 2x long. So MSTR trading up. Bitcoin, by the way, 67,500. And actually, the VIX curling up here a little bit. We haven't given everything back from the CPI, but maybe that's still on deck. VIX curling here 2130 on your VIX read. Goldman Sachs traded down. Remember, Mark was looking at some of the financials there. Interesting to see if we get a move in that. And Corsair is doing its absolute best to hold on to 7. I don't know if we're going to get the pullback that we're waiting for, 13.
Well, let's see. Let me look at here this chart.
You guys are saying Bros die. While you look at that, let me just take a peek at the Bros chart. Oh man, this retraced about half of its pop from the earnings. It's basically back down to the highs from yesterday. Wow.
Bros new lows.
That's good.
CRSR. Maybe this does come back in a little bit. We'll have to see if this is going to flag or not. The VWAP I have at 676, so if that provides some support, we might be getting a flag.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not going to say this doesn't go through 725. That's just where the next big resistance area was, and so far it looks like it's holding up for the moment. But if we get through it, let's see where we go next.
So X Sniper here is saying, how was Corsair missed on the memory chip play? So when I was talking about that stuff earlier, I was thinking about that, X Sniper, and I think it's largely because they don't just make memory. Mm-hmm. SanDisk, Western Digital, Micron, a lot of that stuff is mostly memory. Corsair, as 13 outlined, does a ton of peripherals in addition to some of the memory components. However, they did cite, and I think that this earnings report was the first time that they cited that memory played a huge role in their earnings beat here.
And just so you know, Corsair doesn't make their own chips.
Yeah, Ryan's saying the same. You guys are exactly right. Keep going.
Yeah, they have it manufactured by Hynix, Samsung, and Micron, the ones that are going.
And so to also tie that back to the initial question, X Sniper, folks went to the builders first. Yes. Now we're hearing from the company, yeah, we actually did do better because of this, but the pure plays were the ones that we were looking at before. That's why. Good stuff, Ryan. Good to see you too, Ryan.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of the other memory brands out there. Corsair, I think Kingston's another one. I can't think of all of them right now. Where's my? Yeah, I think I had Corsair as well. Anyway, so
doesn't Asus make memory chips too? I know they make boards.
They make boards, GPUs. They make boards, routers. They make they do a lot. I don't remember if they make memory or not.
So this is interesting. This is a good mention here. So here are the memory pure plays, by the way. Here's SanDisk. This is down 5%. This continues to pull back here. Here's Western Digital, down 4.5%. And here's Micron, down 3.8%. So interestingly enough, Corsair of all of these plays connected to the memory, clearly the outperformer on the back of those earnings. They just put the RGB. Actually, I think that's the one I have, Ryan. G-Skill is actually the one that I have.
Rivian still getting support from the 65 EMA, but also still beneath the VWAP. Fastly trying to hold above its VWAP. It is starting to lose some volume. IMUX, this one still kind of going sideways. Not a whole lot happening here yet. Mulek, this is still headed lower. I think this comes down to the 65 EMA or find support somewhere between the $7.35 and $8 area. I think that's where we see some support coming up here if we can't hold this this 8.85 area.
So really quickly, you guys were asking about some of the other memory providers, and I looked at my own RAM, which is G-Skill. So I went to the chart, or I went to the main page here because I actually don't know who the parent company is for this. I apologize for not knowing that right off the top of my head. And I went to go look for it on the page, and look what I see at the bottom here. DRAM prices are experiencing significant industry-wide volatility due to the global demand driven by AI. We know the whole story here, but they're basically saying on their website here, purchasers should be mindful of the pricing before purchasing. And so to me, it almost, does anyone know? I'll ask AI here. Let me go back to Pro here. Let me ask AI, who's the parent company of G-Skill? Let me do that here real quick, 13.
Data Vault up 10% says Supric. They did put the RGB lights. As long as they have RGB lights, it's going to be a good number, right?
I don't know what to tell you, man. My entire setup is an RGB setup. I think it looks cool. The keyboard's RGB, the mat, the mouse, the mixer.
And ASUS has a really interesting way of controlling all the different RGB stuff in your computer. If only it would work.
Oh. So how about G-Skill does not have a separate parent company. It is itself an independent private company formerly known as G-Skill International Enterprise, and it is headquartered in Taipei, Taiwan.
All right.
Okay. Well, that's the end of that chapter. Anyway, good stuff there. Asking AI while you're taking all of the RAM is ironic. Daniel, yes, there's another hilarious comment here today.
Keep an eye on Corsair. It's got support from the VWAP right now. A little bit more volume, we might be able to push back up through the 7 handle here up towards 733. It's trying to turn around right now, so we'll see if we end up getting this seller in the way at 721. And I'm sorry if you're hearing some noise. My landscapers are outside. That's
okay. You got to make that backyard pop, bro. That's all right. You tell them they're doing a great job.
I will.
He's like, I'm not going to do that.
I talk to him all the time.
Okay, good.
I'll go tell him.
I do too. I like talking. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe they don't like this, but when I have people that do like work for me, that I'm paying to do work for me, I like to talk to them. I offer them a drink. I like to talk to them. I like to not be just some like crabby bastard.
Get off my lawn, you just
tell you. I really don't. Okay. Daniel, by the way, that was a good comment. Props.
And look at Fastly now. This is what I was cautioning about.
I see it on the scanner.
So there we go with our relative volume. We didn't get a whole lot higher than yesterday's print. Actually, we didn't even get up to yesterday's print. I think we missed it by about 20 cents. Now we're coming back down to the open.
Matt here saying, me too, Ryan. Matt, it just feels right? Like it just, whenever I meet people, it feels that way. It feels like that's the right thing to do. And actually, it's benefited me. One of the plumbers that was redoing my bathroom, I didn't even think to ask him. He just decided, hey, you're a real tall guy. Why don't I raise the shower head for you? And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. And the first time I took a shower in there, I was like, how in the F did I not suggest this myself?
Because you're not a plumber.
All because I was being nice to him.
And you're not a plumber.
And that's true. It's another way of appreciating what they are doing. Indeed, Matt, you and I are totally aligned on that. I'm glad I'm not the only one. By the way, Corsair, good call there on that holding 17. This actually looks like this is going to try and move higher, 13.
They're stacking some sellers in front of 720, but I think with just a little bit more volume, we're going to push through them here and retest that 733 area. Really,
I missed the ad on this, by the way. I was a little bit more conservative down towards the VWAP, so I have no position on this second run up, which we'll see if we get that. All right. You guys were also mentioning that the SPY was coming back in. It kept selling. So here's what the SPY actually looks like. So I want you to keep in mind, this is, I think, going to be the area today, 678. Looks like it is kind of testing that. We'll see if it holds this. I have this at 678.83. So if you want to call it 679, I wouldn't even fight you on that. But this area, this pre-market low, this is what we want to hold.
Thanks to Mel. She's mentioning Mulek again. This is
MLEC, you got it.
This is finding some support. It turned around. It's halted to the upside. It has recaptured the VWAP on my broker's chart.
Mine too.
So good turnaround there. We'll see what we end up getting out of the halt, which should be a little bit longer now. I believe this is the second or third one.
This is the second halt. And remember, this was on the Charles Schwab restricted list. Okay. So if you were going to trade this, you would have to either call or open up the support chat to get that restriction removed. I'm not trading this, full disclosure.
The resistance I'm seeing right now, you're going to have, in the 11 handle has some resistance all kind of through it right now, but there's some really tough resistance, I think, around 12.25. No closes in the pre-market above that on the 5-minute chart. So I think that's one spot I would be keeping an eye on for a breakout if we can get through this 11 consolidation.
Okay, good stuff. Now, Corsair here, it looks like it is trying to break that high.
Yes, sir.
We'll keep watching. Oh, Bernhard, I am going to reuse this. I absolutely love this. Be nice to people on the way up. You will meet them on the way down. That is I'm screen grabbing this just to make sure I don't forget it or butcher it. That is awesome, Bernhard. Bonus points for you. Glass half full. Just be nice to people, folks. You have no idea what someone else is going through. I love this, Bernhard. That's great. Great. All right.
I'm enjoying today. This is, I'm glad that the volume is somewhat favorable, even though I have real reservations about what I was seeing in the CPI report. How's BTC looking right now?
BTC is at the highs of the day, 67,800 on the futures. Does anyone like SPY 0 DTE calls today? Maybe 685 calls? Anyone interested in that? Let's see, 685, they're $1.41. It might be a little bit better to wait for later on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that necessarily a good idea? Well, I guess it's 0 DTE.
So here's let me give you some more context to this. I kind of hinted at this before you got on, so let me tie it together here. Last week, we saw the Bears won the week, right? Every day it seemed lower. And then Friday, we had that rip your face off rally. And, I'm wondering, is there short covering into the weekend? Is that something that's going on? Could totally see it. I actually asked Anne-Marie about that. She agreed with me, which made me feel real good. And the other thing here is we got this 3-day weekend here. Yeah. Shorts had another winning week. Part of me is just wondering, now that we had the CPI, I know you have some reservations about it, and that's fine, but part of me wonders if that headline print is enough for us to maybe even just trade back a little bit today. So I was looking at 685. I don't think we get back to 695 for context there, but maybe we do bounce a little bit here today. So far, so good. SPY's bouncing here. Hasn't taken out the top of the pre-market range, so I don't want to get too excited too early on, but I'm just thinking 0 DTE calls, that would be a very quick way to play this. Those 685s are up 15 cents since I took a look at them. So they're moving.
Well, if you look at the SPY daily, I think you'll notice that so far this year, every time that we've had a drop down beneath the 50-day SMA, we've had a quick recovery and snap and recapture the following day. What do you think is going to happen if we don't do that today? Because we need to do it today. Just look at a daily chart and you can see what I'm talking about. So we go down to 680. That's been, a very important level.
Yep.
And we lose, and in the process of going down to 680, we lose the 50-day SMA. So look at so far this year, every time that we've went underneath and closed under the 65 EMA on the daily.
Okay.
Every next day we recapture the 50-day SMA. That has to happen today, or we go.
Gotcha. Okay, sweet. Whoa, skills might want to calm down and stop yelling. We're a very positive group here. Jay says, bit late, Ryan. Yeah, and you're right on that. You probably should have bought like the pre-market low as it was holding. I'm with you on not chasing, especially not through the pre-market high. I think we want to see that fall first. Then also Big Misty says, hey, Ryan and 13, I just love your stream. We love you. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you would, turn on notifications. That would help too. Tint says, went to get coffee, missed the dip. Thankfully, you'll have another opportunity at some point.
VKTX, one we were looking at yesterday, that had a fall out of the gate down to just under $30, and it's rebounded. Volume doesn't look the greatest, but kind of curious to see what we end up getting here with this one. It's been a mover before, so let's just see what we end up getting here with this one. Mulek is open, by the way. And that is still trying to hold above the VWAP and the $10 area. We just kind of dipped underneath it there. Trying to hold above 10. Not succeeding.
Okay. NBIS, this is getting mentioned here in the group. CW Parker, this is a nice little move higher here on NBIS. So I think we do want to get, we did actually. Okay, so I've got the 65 EMA on the daily on this one at 93.45. A push higher here. Maybe this will go challenge 100, 107, 108, those recent highs.
Jay, I think Jay brings up a company that I'm pretty sure we've looked at before on Happy Hour, FN. This is in the same space that we've been talking about with components and optics. So this is very, very interesting. Thank you, Jay.
This, I believe, Chris, if you're out there,
it might have been him.
I think it was him who mentioned this one.
And
I didn't ever buy or trade this one, unfortunately, though.
And I wonder when it was he mentioned it, because looking at it now, it's gone on a pretty nice run, as a lot of things have since Liberation Day. But a lot of sideways price action here as of late last year.
Yeah, the swings are wild, Jay. You're right. Not the easiest trader out there. All right, what are these NVIDIA options doing here? It looks like we got some put sweeps there. NVIDIA is actually lower here, so that continues to sell. How's Apple doing? Apple's lower here. Tesla's lower here. Amazon is lower, but closer to flat than the others.
Oh, thanks, Avi. Skipping on CNBC and focusing on Benzinga is the best move. I appreciate it. I don't. Are they still talking about how the market's in turmoil?
They are not. I haven't seen the graphic today,
Okay.
But to be fair, I haven't really watched a lot today.
And
maybe I missed it.
I'll give you a little context here, folks. When the market's in turmoil, that's going to be down when we start seeing real pullbacks. I'm talking like at least 5%. That's going to take us down to 663. We're not even close to that yet. I don't think the market's in any kind of turmoil, but I'm not saying it can't be. And just up here, it's not.
And I would further that and say if we even pulled back 5%, I would not consider that turmoil. No. And Billy, good mention here. Coin getting warmed up. We had a dip down to the pre-market low and a hold. Do we have a break of the pre-market high? Let me know.
I want to see what my...
No position on coin for me today. Billy, let me know. What are you in that? Are you trying to trade that here today? And Ray saying, hello, Ray. Astus broke down beneath the 50-day moving average. This is going to be 13. I know we've looked at this one a lot. Do you expect a further breakdown here in ASTS? Well, the 50-day was yesterday's news, frankly. We broke that yesterday. It looks to me like today's situations, it's trying to hold 82. That's the 100-day. So I would go further to say that if we snap this 100-day, I would not be surprised if maybe 69, nice, is the next one, or maybe even 60 after that, which represents your 200-day. The last time we had a substantial pullback, we did break under the 100-day. It still found some support there, but we inevitably broke it and then recaptured. So I think the 50-day is done, frankly. I think the real test here is going to be at 80.
So this does have some short interest, almost, it's over 19% of the float short of, but the days to cover is kind of low. So not necessarily some of the parameters that we're looking for here. There could be maybe a squeeze with this one. There's certainly some support down around the $80 area. It got support yesterday. It looked like it's getting support there today. Now, I'll say this. If this turns around and tries to come back up towards the 50-day SMA, a recapture of that, I think, is going to have to be paramount. I get the sense that it's going to test that and maybe not get back over it. And if that's the case, then I think that we are going to go lower. The big issue I have with AST Space Mobile right now is a lot of the revenue that they've been talking about getting hasn't really started to show up yet. And I think that's going to have to be the big thing here. They need to start having that revenue show up, because if it doesn't, then yeah, I think it's going lower.
Okay. And by the way, I did put the short interest there on the screen for you. If you don't have access to that, 13 was exactly right. By the way, Corsair did end up breaking higher. It did this without me, sad trombone, but Corsair now, we'll see if 750 is next. Alpha Trade says, what's the best short interest to look at for a big squeeze? So I've asked a lot of folks this, and there's a lot of varying opinions on this. And if anyone in the chat has their own opinion, I would love to hear it. But generally speaking, what 13, and I think 13 and I are in alignment on this, what we normally consider high short interest is a combination of two data points. Mm-hmm. The percent of float shorted has to be greater than 20% for us to consider that high. If it's under 20%, like this one's at 17, I would call this elevated, but maybe not high. And then the other metric that we're looking at is called days to cover. And this is how many days it would take to cover all of the raw short interest based on the stock's average volume. So here on Corsair, we have a days to cover of 7.9. The high threshold for us on this is 5. And again, this 13, stop me if I'm saying anything incorrect here, but this we have kind of picked up from having discussions about short interest with a lot of other people, including former private equity guys and analysts as well, that kind of led us to these numbers or these thresholds, if you will.
Yeah, and I don't remember if this was the case or not when they gave us the number of 5, but that typically is, that's how many days there are, trading days there are in a week.
Yeah, very good.
So if they can't unwind that in a week, then it may carry over into the next week. So there's the point about the high days to cover, at least being 5, is it could squeeze for a prolonged period of time, not just one day.
Okay.
And yes, CRSR did pop over 750. We have printed 755.
Yep.
Starting to look like it's topping out a little bit, but I don't think that we're quite there yet. Let's see what this candle does. I want to see if we're starting to get volume to come in a bit. It's been pretty. It's been about the same for the past 20 minutes, so it hasn't really declined yet. But I'm waiting to see if we start to get that.
The other thing here is that now our VWAP is creeping up. This VWAP might be right around 7. So if we get that pullback and this thing yanks to 7, that would be an area worth watching for potential entry to the long side. Well, frankly, you might be able to make a case for either side if it breaks down through it. But nonetheless, the VWAP pullback here would be something to watch and potentially a setup for another trade here. And the other thing here, folks, I know it's Friday, and it's Friday before a long weekend. I would say it's 13. I'd like to get your opinion on this, too. I think it's almost more paramount that on a Friday before an extended weekend that you really don't do something that makes you feel crappy. Like chasing a stock, this stock's up 63%. Chasing this and not using some of the technical levels that are very apparent on the chart here is a really good way to make you antsy about getting back to it. You got to wait an extra day because the market's going to be closed on Monday next week. So just be safe about this. You're going to have another opportunity. We got a 3-day weekend coming up.
Yeah, every day there's always something to trade. There's always some kind of mover that will provide something for us. Don't get hung up on one thing. And if it's not working out with your trades one day, use some of that discipline you've been training yourself on. Maybe sit on your hands or just take it notes in your journal about what you did, what went wrong, and we can review that later. But don't continue to make a bad situation worse. Indeed.
3 really good comments from the chat. Exactly 0 people are surprised at that. Kathy saying that Costco is finally over 1K. Boy, 13, yeah. That pullback that Costco did recently, I think ended up giving 150, 170 points. Can't remember exactly where it bottomed there, but Costco, I'll be going to make my pilgrimage tomorrow, one might say. Jay Rice here saying rotation out of SanDisk, Micron, and WDC into other tech wouldn't be a bad thing. I totally agree with you on that, Jay.
What's tech, though?
And that would be my follow-up question, right? What would they rotate into if tech? right? If tech, would you like to see them rotate into anything else? Like, Jay, if you saw a rotation into small cap stocks, would that change your opinion on what you're looking to trade in 2026 at all? Just out of curiosity, I'm just coming up with an example. You might have another one. And then the third comment here, Alpha Trade, saying the thing with short interest is that the shorts do not have to cover all at once. You don't know what prices they shorted at.
Right.
This is absolutely correct. The thing there about the days to cover is if there are large short positions, Alpha, you're exactly right. They're not going to cover at once. You're probably not going to buy all that stock at once. You're going to dramatically increase the price. But if it takes you a while to kind of get out of those, it's conceivable that that price can rise. Now, ultimately, this is not an end-all, be-all. This is just one more tool in your toolbox for trying to make the best possible decision on the day. Really good comments from the group, though. And nobody's surprised. Nobody is surprised. Okay, SPY looks like, so you were asking me, is that those SPY calls, is that maybe the best idea? Well, nope, looks like we're rolling over here. So we like teased a breakout here and then immediately met that with selling. Now it looks like we're going to test the downside level here. Again, I'd watch 678 and 3/4 if you want to be technical.
And with these movers, we have Mulek halted again to the downside. I think this is going to have a date with 8, maybe the 65 EMA as well.
That is your third halt, by the way.
Yeah, and Corsair printed new session highs, 757, trying to go a little bit higher. I think we might be starting to see volume come in a little bit. There's a seller in the way right now at 750. If he can take him out, maybe we do print a little bit higher, but I'm a little bit concerned about where we are at in the morning and if we're going to continue with the upside. So I think I'll just wait and see what we get here with Corsair in a little bit. VTech still not doing a whole lot, but is a little bit lower, getting support from the 65 EMA. IMUX also sideways. Rivian going, now new lows for the session, regular session, also still trading underneath the 65 EMA. We might get some support a little bit further down, maybe in this consolidation area from the after hours yesterday. That's going to put it down near the 200 EMA on the 5-minute. But like I said earlier, this has got a pretty large float. Their earnings, while they were better than expected, this company is still losing a substantial amount of money. So I think there could still be some more downside, but you're going to probably get a lot of back and forth on the way down as well.
Okay, or Alpha Trade, excuse me. Is there a way to find out the short average price? So this is interesting. I have no reliable, consistent way of doing that. However, in my experience, talking to people that are connected, people that run firms, that actually talk to CEOs, talk to other firms, sell-side analysts, the whole 9 yards, they can sometimes, and I don't know the specifics of this, but they can sometimes figure out where that short price is. Sometimes they're just told, right? So sometimes they're just able to figure that out based on the information that they have access to. But I don't have a reliable way of doing that. I would say here, if someone does in the chat, let's discuss that, because that could be cool.
Great trade there, Scott. Scalped 710 to 755 in Corsair, looking to add back under 720.
I love it. I first of all, the fact that you have all the legs of this plan tell me that you're cooking right here. Let Scott cook. Maybe we do come back in here 720. I've got VWAP at 701. Good trade, Scott. Register ring for you.
Yeah, Jay, with Corning, they, I think that one of the big reasons they ran up so much is not just because of, we're going to need fiber optics for all the data centers, but you also had a couple of other things too that I think contributed to this massive run it's had. One, of course, we know about the deal with Meta. Meta's trying to, lay fiber optic cable around the world, as is Google. So here you are with this partnership, this company in partnership with Meta, doing that. But also there's been significant increase in undersea cable cutting done by countries like China and Russia, and they're saying, well, I didn't know, but at the same time we know what the game is, and that's having to be replaced. So you're also getting a move off of that as well. So two big things there: the deal with Meta and undersea cable disruption.
I mean, they make all the screens for the smartphones and all these other devices. Cars have more screens in them that have Corning glass on them.
Yeah.
Jay, what area would you like this to come into, just out of curiosity? And good stuff there, by the way. Where's thinking about it today? I need him to make fun of me with the weed jokes and stuff.
He might still be thinking about it. Mulek, come on, man. Mulek Open went down a little bit lower and got support from, what is this, the 812 area. Trying to turn around. Having a hard time, though. Coming up to some resistance. There it is right there. We're at the resistance now. Let's see if we can push through it.
CRSR, by the way, 759 is your high print. 774, I beg your pardon, is the 200-day. We talked about that earlier, and we expect resistance there.
Still going.
Kathy mentioning HYMC. Yeah, like I said, when we figured out, shout out to the AI there. Because when we figured out that, yeah, this is because of memory, and it didn't take us very long to do that, and that they still have stock, to me, this one, I know I didn't want to chase and didn't go in full size there. It was just one scalp, and it was quick. I actually wish we got a pullback there. That'd have been great. It really kind of ran right ahead of the open. But I'm not surprised to see the upside move here today. And perhaps you're getting rotation from some of those other memory names. HYMC being mentioned by Kathy. That's coming up to the 38 handle, which is where it topped yesterday.
Look at the daily on that.
On HYMC?
Uh-huh. This is kind of interesting.
It sure is.
This is starting to, what I think might be forming a bit of a base here following the sell-off and loss of the 20-day SMA. So if this continues sideways, we're going to want to see a recapture of that 20-day SMA. I think 40 also would be in the cards as well. They're about the same area. I think they're separated by about $1. So that's kind of what I would want to see here out of Highcroft. And if we are getting support from BTC, because it looks like it is down at a support area, I think that this may end up going sideways at BTC for a little bit before it comes back up. Keep an eye on BTC. That's going to tell you the risk is back on in the market or not. And if it is, then a lot of these names are going to, these riskier names will start coming back up.
Kathy, what do you think here? Tell me what you think. Do you like this on a potential curl back towards 40? Maybe even through it? Tell me what you think. No wrong answers. VIX, by the way, someone's asking 2184. So the VIX is actually near the high. The high print of the day is 2240.
We're getting asked by Suprik that Founder Group moved 19% today with very low volume. Any news? So let's see here. They got a float of 4.6 million. I'm not seeing any news. What do they do? Solar solutions provider in Malaysia. I wonder if this is probably moving on maybe a CPI, kind of like a rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing. The CPI was favorable, so you're getting a lot of these more speculative names to come back up. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. I'm just trying to look for an answer. It might be that. I don't see any news.
I got some more information here. Founder Group, ticker FGL, does not publicly disclose a simple list of its main customers, but it does describe the type of customers that it serves. Utility, large-scale solar project owners, commercial and industrial companies, and partners in regional renewable products. So that would be ASEAN countries, ASEAN, under the Memorandum of Understanding for future EPCC and related services.
Okay, I'm just looking around at some of these other solar names, and they're up too. First Solar, TAN.
And so that doesn't look to be location specific. FGL filings emphasize that revenue is generated predominantly from Malaysia-based solar projects. So some of those other ones that you named has nothing to do with FGL, right. And this looks like a theme move.
Okay, so yeah, and then that's kind of what I'm thinking it must be then, and it might be on the back of that CPI report. I can't say for sure, but all the solar names are getting a lift here.
And here, 3Z Crew says, what does HYMC have to do with Bitcoin? It's a gold and silver miner.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Since it bounced off the 50, I added. Okay, so Kathy, I'd asked you what you think. I appreciate this. Since HYMC bounced off the 50-day, I added, I will probably get out of half when it gets to resistance around 55. That would be a hell of a swing trade, Kathy. That's
so we've also seen Bitcoin, I mean, it's a speculative name, so I wouldn't be surprised that this also goes with the CPI report. That's I think why you're getting a lift in some of these more speculative names. So because I think with that CPI report, there's this sentiment that we're going to get some rate cuts when the Fed said we weren't. Inflation's coming down, so that means that we're not going to raise rates, or we won't be holding rates too steady. So all the names that are tied to higher risk and lower rates, they're all going to go. So solar is going to be up there. Miners are going to be up there, whether they be Bitcoin or metals. Banks should also be getting a lift too. I mean,
Bitcoin has been the risk on indicator for us. By the way, here's a look at the silver chart. That's SLV. Here's a look at the gold chart. All of those curling up here. And don't worry, guys, I will continue to ban the copy pasta screaming nonsense that comes into the chat.
Also, HYMC, there's some short interest here, but the days to cover is very low. It's only one, which is interesting because they still have a 50 million share float, and we've only traded about 1 million shares today.
Hood calls. How's Hood doing today? Hood, actually, this is a nice day. This has retraced 50% of its move down yesterday. At a possible resistance area here, 75.
Corsair, new high, 768. Coming back, we got a red candle. We'll see if this can hold up here above 745, but it might be starting to weaken.
I'll tell you what, Scott's going to get a whole bunch more sound effects and victory laps if this VWAP creeps up to 720, the stock pulls back and holds 720. Because if his plan just materializes perfectly and the VWAP aligns with that, you will get another victory lap, Scott.
Well, aside from Corsair, nothing looking too great. I mean, there's a lot to trade out there, but I mean, I'm looking at iBit right now, thinking that this is, I don't think that we're starting to see the recovery of Bitcoin. I think we go sideways for a little bit, but keeping an eye on iBit.
And then really quickly here, regarding any recent tokenization IPOs, I mean, the only ones that I know about are eToro and Robinhood. Those aren't necessarily recent. Looks like in February of 2026, you had Ondo Finance listed on the NYSE and NASDAQ to be tokenized on blockchains like Ethereum, Solana, and BNB chains from day one.
Ray, the Hood CEO said that Bitcoin revenue is only 18% of their total revenue. So are they selling Bitcoin, or where does their revenue come from? Because my understanding with it when it comes to crypto on Hood is that you're not necessarily owning the crypto that you're trading. You're owning the right to it. It's on paper essentially. So is it from just transactions that they're getting this revenue, or are they actually selling it? I'm kind of curious about that, because if they're not selling it, then with the Bitcoin valuation coming down, so too should their stock.
Maybe we're getting this pullback here in Corsair. The 5-minute chart looks like the top is there at 768.
Yeah, you're starting to see a decline in volume. Momentum is starting to fade a little bit here. 730, that's going to be the next support area from right where we are. And if we lose that, then you've got VWAP beneath it.
IGV, yep. This is actually getting a little bit of a bounce back from yesterday's shellacking. NBIS looks like that continued. Yep, sure did. SPY looks like it's back on, trying to take out the high of that pre-market range.
Fastly is coming back up to its VWAP. If it can get over 1674, we might be able to get to 17.
Okay, so we would want to break on that VWAP on Fastly, right? We wouldn't want to try while it was still under VWAP.
Yeah,
1663, 1666 are the two VWAP readings I have.
What else is everybody looking at? Yesterday's high was $79. I'm gonna look at it real quick here. Should be having a better day than yesterday. Still think that that Hood's going to go lower. We have an imminent death cross coming, And if this can't recapture 80, I think that's going to be the big level we need to get back up to. Because if we can get over 80, then we're going to gap fill a little bit up to 85.50. But if we can't, then I think we're going to come down to 67, maybe lower.
SPY is trying to push here. I was just taking a look. Those 685 0 DTE calls are the same price they were this morning. Just goes to show you really have to time that move or get your entry correct. Otherwise, those 0 DTEs are going to continue to deteriorate as the day goes on. Might be something to check in for power hour. We'll see. God, there's been so much back and forth for me. I haven't really been peeking at the unusual options here. MDT looks like this was a call buy for June. 100 call buy. They bought 7,300 contracts, spent 4.76 million on that trade. That's MDT Medtronic. Now they have earnings in 4 days, guys.
And this is one of the ones I own. I like those medical devices.
Yo, that option trade ahead of earnings, 4 days ahead of earnings at the money with that kind of size. Let's check. Remind me, 13. This is Tuesday before the market. So Tuesday morning. Remind me. In fact, I'm going to set an alert. I don't know if I'm going to take that trade. I wonder if somebody knows something there. Let me.
And I don't have this for a trade. I have this for a longer investment. I own this much lower in the 80s.
Check MDT.
This is not a trade for me. This is a longer term investment.
Huge call sweep. 4+ million. Okay. No, look, because here's the thing. I'm going to forget. If I don't set this reminder, I'm going to forget. And at least now my computer will remind me to take a look at this.
It's going to be the first thing that we get out of the long weekend. One of the first things we get.
3D said we got another producer. Check this out. We got another YouTube commercial in the middle of the stream. That shouldn't be happening, I don't think. You might get one at the beginning, but I don't think you should be getting. Producer, can you check in on 3D's experience here?
James bought PayPal leaps for the hell of it.
Good luck, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I still think this goes to 30. I don't know if it's going to go lower or if it'll find support there, but I'm thinking it goes to 30.
Matthew, this is one of the things that I have been hammering on here today. Remember, last week we were red all week, and then we had that green Friday, then back to red on Monday. I'm not getting excited, and I think that Tuesday will go back to red.
This thing's getting ridden down by the 50-day SMA, maybe even the 20. I don't know about the 20. I don't think that's really the case. I think the 50-day SMA is where this needs to recapture. Wow, we came down to all-time lows just recently.
All right, guys, I will have my producer look into this. I'm sorry about that, but I thank you for all of your support. Also, thank you, Andas Highs.
Medtronic got a device approved today. Kind of surprised we're not a little bit higher on that. Do they have that?
Barclays also reiterating overweight and 116 price target.
Oh, for their spine surgery robotic system.
Fastly, don't look now, but rejected at the VWAP. Told you we had to wait till that got over VWAP. Altimmune back on the scanner. Oh, this pulled back from when Kathy was banking off of this.
Medtronic still coming in after that. Okay, so it looks like it did pop on that news earlier, and now it's coming back in. Okay, I still like it.
Scott says CRSR might not give the pullback you wanted. You and me both, brother.
I don't know about that. I think you may still get it just because the volume has really started to come in a lot.
I'll tell you what, that VWAP is creeping up to his 720 spot, 13.
I know. I know it is. I see that. But, I'm just looking at the volume and I'm thinking, okay, well, this volume here is not going to probably give us enough to really push us a whole lot higher. So I would think that maybe we do come in a little bit here. And if it does come down to that VWAP, you're going to get your 720 entry. Yeah, and so I think you're right. Not much trading. I only took a trade or two, and I think we're probably going to see. You might be right about next week as well. Although I think because we're still going to be in the Lunar New Year and Asian markets will be closed, we're going to probably get a lot more of what we had this week. But the week after, I think we're going to see a lot better trading. Asian markets will be back open.
Yeah.
We might have a SCOTUS ruling on tariffs by then, or that.
And that's
week.
Friday, right?
It might be as early as next Friday.
It might be as early as the 20th, but maybe that week of the 23rd. Okay.
Right. And then we also have NVIDIA earnings that week
on the 25th. That's Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that not next week, not the short week next week, but the week after, we might see better price action here in the markets with the return of Asian markets and all the other news catalysts that are coming out.
I thought you were going to bust into singing Return of the Mac right there, and I was about to move with you, but no worries.
I can't sing that good.
Yeah, neither can I. Neither can I.
I do joke good sometime.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's see here what we got going on with these movers. Really not a whole lot anymore.
CRSR was the mover of the day.
Yeah,
I think that's really the easy one.
And with the way the volume looks, I really do think it's going to come back in a little bit here. The momentum is starting to keel over a little bit. I'm just going to just wait, see if we get it. And it's been a decent morning. I don't want to give anything back.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I'm actually nicely green here today. I know Ondas is doing some of the lifting there. And yeah, I will say the scalp for me on Corsair, I didn't feel good about it because I felt like I was chasing, so I just kind of reduced my size on it, but at least it hit something.
Yeah, Daniel, I think you're right about Mulek. For me, we just got to get back above VWAP, and we'll see what happens there. But this thing has got a bit of a spread, it's like about a 10-cent spread. Volume is really starting to fade from this thing. So don't know if we're going to see that recapture the VWAP here on Mulek in the morning here. Maybe later on today, as we've seen so many times with these movers, it could come back. But for now, I'm not sure. Han saying Duke hit his first target. Duke, I've owned this for a while. This is a great utility company. I don't have any problem with this one. Although for taking a long position, I'm not so sure I'd be necessarily doing it up here. But still, I agree. I think it's a great company. I'm just not sure if this is the price I'd be buying at. We've gone on a bit of a run. This is a little bit more towards the top of that run. We're starting to get a little bit extended on the RSI. But if you have a plan on what you're going to do with this, go for it. Don't let me affect your plans. I think it's a good company.
Also here, just a couple of things. Hippo Hero Zero broke my heart to see my Corsair call not get bought. Did you make a call on that? A little bit ago, and we just didn't buy. I'm sorry about that. That was a good one. And when we were kind of reviewing the earnings, I think it was X Sniper said, "How did we miss this?" Apparently we didn't. Apparently Hippo had it the whole time, and we just didn't surface it enough. I blame myself. Also, Fastly through the VWAP there. So if you were going to try to trade that, I think waiting for the VWAP to fall is good. This actually might challenge the top end of the range.
We've got bulls, we've got bears. Sometimes we have whales, but there is only one Hippo.
You hear that, Hippo? Here.
Fastly with a recapture of the VWAP.
Yep, that's what I was just saying. And so we'll see if this gives us if this pulls back here, but this is what I would want to be waiting for another challenge of that 1750-ish.
What about Rivian? So we touched on Rivian earlier, and I still don't like it. I mean,
it is trying to go through its 65 EMA though.
Yeah, it's just when I look at the amount of money they're losing, it's just not appealing to me. This doesn't look great. Let's see if this fills the gap to the downside. That's going to take us down to about 1475. But on the just intraday, looks like it is trying to come back up towards. I would say
test coming
1715. I think is where you're going to see this go to before it runs into some more resistance. I mean, it looks to me like we've got a bit of a double top here in the from the pre-market into the regular session. So if we do come back up, I'm thinking 17.15 is going to be a resistance area. It might even be this VWAP here. We'll see. Maybe for a trade, you could get something out of this. If you're looking for an investment, I don't like it. I just don't.
Fastly on its way to 17. We'll see if it can print that. How's Corsair? Ooh, that just fell off the screen. There we go. Corsair's still holding above 750. We had that one nailed.
Hans mentioned that Planet Labs is going up. This is a imaging company, one of the space plays. They have news. Let's see what we got here. Please populate news feed. Thank you. So the news today, Planet convenes European and defense advisory boards. So somewhere in this article here, they are, they may be tapped by the European defense and advisory boards for imaging information, I would say. I'd have to read through this, or you could send an AI through it and it could tell you what they think about it. But that's what the news appears to be here today. Looks like they also had some news yesterday, but that was much earlier in the morning.
Really quickly, Supric saying, how much time left to unhalt FGL? Not to be the bearer of bad news here, but I don't know. FGL was halted at 10:06:39 Eastern time, and it is 10:25. So this is 19 minutes of halt. Wasn't this the Malaysian one?
Let me see here.
Yeah, this is the Malaysian solar company that we talked about. Yep. I don't know the answer to that, Supric. I don't want to get too Debbie Downer here and say that maybe this does not open again today. But I don't love that it's been 19 minutes. 5 and 10 minutes have been the thresholds that we often see on these.
So I'm wondering if there's some news coming, and that's why it might be halted, because this company is going through a NASDAQ compliance issue. They just did a 100 for 1 share combination. So, and then they're going to have to likely raise some more capital. I'm wondering if we have some news halted. And you know what? When was this movement? Was this all today?
Today.
Okay. Because they halted last night on news pending at 7:50 p.m. Eastern. And I don't know what that was on. Something's happening here with this.
Yeah, and Brian here says that's a long halt. Something is not right. And that's what I'd be worried about. And you were absolutely, on Monday, this thing halted, 7:50 news pending. Yeah, you're right. And I don't have reasons for these halts today.
I'm a little concerned that this may be an offering coming. I can't think of really a whole lot of why this would be, unless there's some significant news coming that's going to be, materially great for the company, like a news headline about a deal or something. But when I'm seeing what's going on with this, and they have the NASDAQ compliance and the recent reverse split, I'm kind of leaning that this may be some kind of offering that's coming here.
Okay, that would be bad. Real quickly here, and then we'll wrap before we go to Anne Marie. A number of you folks are mentioning Ondas, and this is here at the highs. This has definitely been good action here today. Here's what it looks like on the daily chart. Now, Zach, you're mentioning here the daily candle is higher than yesterday's, and indeed that's what we see here. This is giving us the curling effect. It's also giving us a higher low from the recent pullback to the 8s. And he says it's in a downtrend. I hope that changes soon. Now, what I would want to see here, I've got the 9 EMA on the daily at 979. I would love to recapture that. A recapture of that would make me feel pretty good that we are indeed trying to change the trend. Better still, if we can move through this trend line. I've got that at about 1033.
If you look at a 5-minute or smaller time frame between Tuesday and Wednesday, the after hours and pre-market, there is an area of consolidation that I think that we're at right now. I think that's going to be the thing to keep an eye on, because your target that you mentioned, I think you said 971 what was it?
Let me go back here.
979 or
979.
like so this consolidation area, the high end of that looks to be about 975, 76. So I think if we get through that, you could potentially get your wish. We might end up seeing 10, but we got to get through all that consolidation.
And Glenn here mentioning that the Ondas 0.618 fib level is at 966. So it looks like there's a lot of important spots right here. Yeah. And by the way, folks, before we do this wrap here, I guess we can, let's just do it as part of the wrap, because I believe Fastly was on the movers list here. Let me see if I can select that here. It's not. Okay. Let me just do it manually, and then we'll go ahead and wrap some of these movers. Fastly, this did trade back above its VWAP, but the better news here is that it is actually building above the VWAP. So we are holding, and we are, to me, this actually sets up perhaps another run to 18. We'll see there on Fastly. Okay.
It's just got to get the volume, I think.
It's just got to get the volume. All right. We're going to start here. So we talked a little bit about MLEC. We just kind of broke down. Oh, no, that was FGL. MLEC, this is one of the movers here. This has really kind of come back in. Looks like it might be testing the 9 EMA. 13, what do you think here on MLEC?
This may still go a little bit lower and test that 65 EMA as support. I don't know that we're necessarily going to get a reversal off that and go higher. But this did have some pretty interesting news about the derecognition of the companies that are going through bankruptcy, Bioceres, that this company was the parent company of. So with that money coming towards it, we may still see some better price action in the coming days, maybe next week. But for today, right now, it's got to get above that VWAP if we're going to see some more upside. And I think we would end up testing the 65 EMA first before we end up getting that. But just a couple of things to watch for. We also need that volume component, and it's just not there right now.
Okay, and Fastly, by the way, did get a little bit of a volume pop. We are through 17. Waiting for that VWAP to get crossed was definitely the move. Okay, best mover of the day here, CRSR, Corsair Gaming, moving on earnings, bolstered by the price of memory. This is near the highs here. This has been a really good call all day. What do you think on this?
I think it's slowing down. The volume is something I've been talking about a lot all morning with CRSR, and it was going pretty well for about the first 30 minutes of trading until we hit that 768. Since then, the volume has really kind of dropped off. So even if we do get a little bit higher prints, you may want to end up selling into those, because I think you're going to be met with a lot of resistance. And if it does get a breakout, it couldn't be met immediately with a big seller. So I think this one may end up trading a little bit better in the afternoon, but right now it looks like this is looking to come back in.
Okay, and then this will probably be the last mover that we'll recap here, Rivian.
Well, this one looks like it's got support from some of the after hours highs that it had yesterday, and that today we went down to just underneath 1650. Well, 1650 was where the highs were in the after hours following the earnings print. So getting support from that, it is turning around and trying to recapture the 65 EMA and the VWAP. But this does have a very large float. It's the earnings, even though they were beats, they're not necessarily great earnings, because the company's still losing a substantial amount of money. So I don't know how great this is going to be. If this manages to get back above VWAP, perhaps there'll be something there. But with the way the volume is shaping up to kind of diminishing a bit, and just the current price action, I don't know how great this will be. But maybe there will be a better trade if it's back above VWAP later. Okay,
13, really good stuff. Any closing words for the group here?
Folks, have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Tell everybody that you love them, your mom, your dad, and have a great 3-day weekend. And we'll be back at this. I don't know what kind of week we'll get, being that it's short and a lot of Asian markets are closed, but we're going to make the best of it. So until then, take care. I'll see you on Tuesday.
All right, 13. Remember, I've heard that the people in Dubai don't like the Flintstones, but the people in Abu Dhabi do. Have a good one. All right, let's bring on Anne-Marie. Let's see how she is doing here today. Anne-Marie liked that one.
Love the dad joke right there. It was fabulous.
Okay. Hey, we joke around here. That's one of the things we do. Anne-Marie, happy Friday. It's good to see you as always. What do you got for us?
Well, a couple of different things. What I've done is I have been working with Claude and Opus for a
Claude had kind of a big drop, and I feel like everyone is working with Claude now.
Right. So I got it to build me something I'm calling a post-earnings drift. And so what it does is pop out the things that fit all the parameters and then give us a nice list of what to look at. So today we have option volume that's really high in Teva and Southwest Air. So we can take a look at those two. Before that, I don't know if you got the note that you probably did got the note that I said, hey, coin's going to be a buy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's up $23 today. So really nice. But what I wanted to do, every time I try to come in, and I just want people to look for the really obvious things sitting around in the chart. And what was super obvious to me is that I looked to the left, and 1 year ago, almost, we had the same kind of bottoming formation. And I said, you know what? I'm buying this into earnings. And it certainly did. I think it would probably be up a lot more if the market wasn't a little weighty. So we might have a run all the way upward here. Here's the problem. The bounce up into this zone easily could be a sell and then a buy. And so if you're staring this down and you go, hey, Bitcoin might be bottoming, we're seeing a lot of the Bitcoin type companies start to catch a little bit of life. You could say, hey, let me see if I can get this from 185 to 195 to 205. So if you're looking for March or April, probably the better one, you would say coin. You would do the April 180, 200 to 220. That gives you $2,000 of upside, so a 10 to 1. This yesterday was $4.97.
That looks like a nice little triple.
Call. Yeah, so that was really, really nice. But this is one that I would say if you're into it and you think it's got some legs that'll hold and you're okay with a little up and down action, that one's your guy. That one's your guy for sure. All right, let's take a look at Southwest Air.
Okay.
So here's the cool thing about these. It tells us, this post-earnings drift thing tells us whether the daily trend is up, the weekly trend is up, and overall what the candle integrity looks like. But they had a slurry of calls hit their space. And so let's see if we can go find them. Here is a volatility event, and this is 4 times the natural volume that came up into the chart. And so they are sitting right in a zone that looks pretty nice for an overall hold into, again, that same April, that same April space. Oh, they don't have April. So let's try, I gotta find where this volume came in. Hang on.
Boy, there's some big open interest in that.
Yeah,
like
very big. Very, very big. This is a pretty nice place. It's in the money already. So unless you're doing something like buying yourself a regular put spread, buying yourself a regular put spread, it's going to feel a little bit more expensive for a $5 spread. You could also...
That's a call spread?
Yes, that's a call spread.
Okay.
It's 5 wide. But you could also sell the 45-40 put spread and pay for, almost half of it. So, well, more than half of it. My thought is I'm trying to figure out where these guys moved into the chains, and I cannot see them. So I wonder if they moved into next year. That's very interesting. Hang on. Let's take a quick peek at the option stats. Puts. Very interesting. All right, let's take a look. Maybe I missed them. Looking on the wrong. Aha, here it is. So my guess is somebody's either defending 50 or they want to be put to 50 because they think the stock is going to hold that region as support because it's a big fat round number. Because they're getting so much premium, they're getting over $2 of premium. So it puts their buy point somewhere around the low of the follow-up candlestick after earnings, which is pretty interesting. My suspicion is that this 45 to 40 is going to give us a pretty solid hold because overall we've got really good trend and nice momentum. Now, since the vol is high, the system is also saying, hey, listen, you're better off selling a spread as opposed to buying a spread. So we can do actually both. We can sell the put spread, collect some premium, and then buy a call spread, again, taking part of a lot of that premium. And if you say, well, maybe some of these regional jets are the ones who are going to be able to hang on, especially one that's fairly well run, and these guys are fairly well run. You could say, hey, put me to it and I'll sell you the 50 for $2.20. The next one.
Really quickly, 13 said that the monthly chart makes 40 really stand out as a support level.
Yeah, let's see. Let's go to, oops. I don't have a monthly one up here.
You don't have to go to it. I was just adding to it.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's have a peek. Yeah, I do see that. I do see that. And take a look at these candlesticks. The break above these candlesticks is pretty interesting. If they haven't had a breakaway, this is a solid base right here. They haven't had a breakaway in a long time in terms of motion. So could give us a little bit of run, at least for a couple of months. And then, we've got upside pressure for the rest of the year after this dip that comes somewhere in June.
Okay.
So, yeah, looks pretty interesting. Looks pretty interesting. All right, so let's go to, let's make that orange. Let's go to Teva. Teva's pharmaceutical, Israeli pharmaceutical, and they just reported earnings a short time ago. So we're looking for candlestick follow through. Everything's bullish in general. And the vol is very low. So buying the call options will be cheaper. And so if we stare this down and we say, the stop for me is always the low of the weekly earnings candle. And so you can see it right here. So if you take a long in Teva, you definitely want to create an alert that tells you what's going on there. So how do you want to do that? A couple of ways. We can go, whoa, where are those puts?
This is for Teva, huh? Let me see if I
Yeah.
can find those for you. That was a lot.
Yeah.
I gotta spell Teva right if I'm gonna do this for you here. Let's see, option time and sales. Looks like you had some big ones here. This is the June monthly 30, 22, and 26 puts.
30, 20.
So the June.
I see them.
Okay.
I see them. So they are betting on this chart fading. And so if we follow that money, that's a strange looking hedge.
It sure is.
And obviously that's what it is. It's some kind of hedge.
I mean, those are almost exact. Those are off by 7.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is one person, more than likely. So if we want to do that, you could follow along. We don't quite know. We don't quite know the structure for what they're after, but you could buy the put and then sell the calls. So let's see where we would want to sell a call. Up at the high spike, which would be 37. Nobody's in there today. Spread's 30 cents wide, so it's not super favorable, but it would pay for that put. And here's the thing. If we repatriate this, many of the generic drugs that we take are made by Teva.
Mhm.
They're one of the largest generic drug companies in the world. And so that's pretty interesting. Now, to me, they're really looking like they finally broken out. But, there's that 25 level, and then 24, and then 22. So do with it what you will. My trade is not in. My thought was, hey, they're going to hold it. So you sell the 30/25s, and there's 10,000 puts there. So I would say it's probably smarter to follow the money than seeing what the chart is telling us in hindsight. You know what I mean? All right. Let's take a look at a few others. Or do you have anything?
Let's try to think. I mean, we covered Coinbase. That was probably the big earnings report. Well, I would let's go to the group here. Let's see what you guys want. And it might take a sec because there might be a little bit of a delay.
Sure.
You just got called a smooth operator, by the way. How about Shop?
Yeah.
That was actually requested here. Linda.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so option vol is expensive. And what do we do here? We're in the middle of these earnings. This is the bar. Here are the 2 prior earnings. So, wow, that's really sideways. Probably going to head to the bottom of the box. Let's see what the vol looks like. The volume, excuse me, not the volatility, the volume. More calls than puts.
Okay.
All right, so let's go back. This is trend line. This one right here. My thought is that the statistic is that we walk through the prior bars if we fade into the past. The fly in the ointment is that we are already walking through this bar over here. And if we use the 50% marker, that gives us, what is that, about $100 as the floor. So if we say, hey, let's see if we can get some bullish pressure. Man, I got to tell you, what I am seeing and where these option traders have positioned, they don't look good to me, which is confusing. But if we look at overall trend and we say, hey, dip buys, so we know trend is generally from a big time frame up. In the short term, it's down on both the daily and the weekly in the short term, running 20 days back. Then what we're staring down here is a break below the low of the earnings candle, which pushes us into the base. So if we have a two-way tape, because it says candle integrity is mixed, so if we do that and we say, all right, let's see if we can have something that goes onto both sides. It either comes into the bottom, and that number is around, let's say, 85. So we'll go 95, 85, 75, and up, and we'll say that's 120, 130, 140. So let's see how that looks. Here is 95, expensive, 95, 85, 75, $1.18. Tons of open interest. Holy smokes. So this looks fair. We're sitting in this edge. We could do, let's see how much more expensive the 190, 80 is. Same price. I would pay the 3 cents more and get it closer to the money. And now we look at the 120, nobody going on there, 120, 130, 140, 97 cents. These guys, their numbers are way down here for higher levels, right? There are a lot of people very interested in shop at higher levels. Just not at this particular time because it started fading into support. So I like both of those. I think they're solid. I really do.
Okay, good stuff there on Shopify. Let's see, we've got time here.
Okay,
we did Coin, we did Teva.
Here's
Joe
some others that go ahead. Yes,
Joe wanted to take the only other two that I see here are Hood and Palantir.
Aha, great. Let's take a look at Hood. Looks like it's breaking down to me. Look at where the continuation is. Remember, I draw the boxes on the weekly prior earnings, and here it is coming into this space. So we've got a downward trend here that's got, potential. Let's, and I believe the traders are going to try and bottom pick. Also, if Bitcoin gets a bid, this is going to get a bid. And so all of those coin, Hood, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETFs, all of those look like they've got possibilities for some kind of reflexive bounce action. The relative volume is way higher over these last few days. So to me, that tells me if it bounces, you're going to find sellers right at this box right here. So you could do them both. You could say, hey, it fades into 60. So you could do 65, 60, 55, or it pops up and fills the gap, and you could do 85, 95, 105.
Okay.
So what do we got? I'm going to give it until March or April. Let's try March because the move might be reflexive. So we've got, what did I say here? 65. No. Oh, yes, I want a 5 spread here. 5 spread is 41 cents. And this one up here, we did 85, 95, 105. It's $1.10. You could also do 85, 90, 95. You just have to be quick on the trigger to get out, because that butterfly shape is not fat like this. It's very skinny. And so the win space is very defined. But if you're looking to make a great return, but you don't want a lot of risk, this is perfect, because you could sell it out at a 50% return and still, it just moves up 20 cents. So
I mean, this is 82 cents total for exposure in both directions. I don't. This is probably the most appealing one we've done so far today.
It looks good. It looks good. You got to watch it though. All right, and then the last one was what?
Palantir.
All right, let's go. Let's see where they're trading right now. Pretty even. Pretty even. Okay, so let's stare down Palantir. Look at this. Man, these boxes.
The box.
They are incredible.
Yeah, they really are.
This looks like a buy zone to me. That being said, all of this volume here tells me that my first pass bounce, people are going to start running for the fire exit. So let's take a look. This is the week of, that went last week. So that's my candle. And then let me go back to, whoops, wait a second. This is the one before it. So that would be the upside target, would be inside of this box at 165. The downside target would be 105, catching this event. But, it's sitting pretty close to a support floor. That's a little bit of a mixed bag. But traders are definitively going to try and bounce here. They're also going to try and sell once they get to the top. So you could take the long spread and say, hey, I want to trade it from 140 to 150 to 160. You could do your butterfly there, or this one would have to be at the money. If you're looking for, you could probably go down to 120. So the put side would be a little bit more expensive. Let's see. Let's go again. We'll give these guys until March. They move very quickly. So this one is 120, 110, 100. That's $1. You could also make it a little tighter, but again, it starts creeping up over that middle strike. If you did 120, 115 to 110, as we all know, Palantir can move $30 in a day. So that spread is a little nerve-wracking to time to exit in a trade like this. So these guys, what are we looking? 140. Ooh, look at that. Big move right there. So they're seeing the same thing. 140, 150, 160. That move up. I like the bounce pass here. And then when it gets to the top, you can buy yourself a put butterfly. But if it were up to me, I would say the call spread is the most likely thing in this formation. It looks almost like coin coming into lows that were almost a year ago, prior earnings. Could it fall out of bed? Yep, it sure could. And 105 would be the next test.
Yeah.
But I like it for the first pass reflexive bounce that gives us an upside shot.
Okay, can you go back to that analyze tab? Joe's asking, sorry, are we talking about call spreads? Well, yes, but she's actually outlined, not spreads, sorry. She's actually outlined a call butterfly and 2 put butterflies here. Looks like they're both March. One's just a little bit cheaper as it's more aggressive.
Yeah, it's much, much tighter. So if you did want to do a call spread, absolutely nothing wrong with the 140, 150. There's a lot of volume there. A lot of people are doing it. If it went all the way to the top, you'd be almost 5x. So you'd be about 4x and some change. So you'd be in, pretty good shape. Not a bad trade if you just wanted to go outright the spread and give yourself, a nice return if the chart actually bounces like that.
Okay. All right. Anne-Marie, really good stuff and really excellent timing as well, as per usual. So have a good weekend and enjoy your holiday with hubby. Thank
you. I'm in the futures market, so it's going to be open. So I will it's just,
He understands.
Yes, of course.
Anne-Marie, have a good one. We'll follow up with you next week. And actually, no market on Monday, so we'll have you on Tuesday. For the opening of the week. Amazing. Yep. All right, take care. That is Anne-Marie Baiynd, folks. Put your hands together. She is indeed the options goddess. All right. Now, Anne-Marie's departure leaves room for Paulo. Let's bring him on. Let's see how he's doing. Paulo, how are you?
Hey, Ryan, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can't. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Yeah, just trying to add some humor here. I can hear you fine. What do you got on deck for us today?
All right, perfect. Thank you for inviting us. Of course, as always, and we're going to check some software stocks that seem pretty oversold and looking at some interesting levels for long term.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Trading Made Simple with Paulo starts right now.
Welcome back, traders. This is Sandra with Trading Made Simple. I'm here to show you short-term proven strategies. People think trading is a one-size-fits-all market. It's not. We live trade and train daily. Let's talk trading.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. How is it going? I hope we are all having a great week, and let's get started here. As always, I have here the chat room to my right. So if anyone would like to request any chart, any ETF, any ticker we would like to see for some analysis, please feel more than welcome and encouraged to do so. And I got some stock picks I would like to share today as well. But of course, we always have some time for doing some requests here. All right, so let's start here with the S&P 500 in the weekly time frame. Then I'm going to share a stock I actually bought yesterday. We're going to check its technicals, also its fundamentals. I think it's looking at a great buying opportunity. And then we're going to leave some time for some requests. So don't forget to request some tickers there to the right, and we're going to check them. All right. So SPX here, looking a bit, 1 second. 1 minute. All right, there it is. SPX here looking a bit dangerous, I would say. Last time 2 Fridays ago, we were looking at SPX. We were checking the possibility that this could have been a wave 1 in a new Elliott wave cycle. Let's quickly here check what would be the reasons why there could be a potential drop maybe to the 6,500s range. So usually on Elliott wave cycles, wave 1 goes from, on the RSI, goes from oversold into overbought. Wave 2 goes from overbought RSI back into equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI, wave 4 back into equilibrium, and we usually got the bearish divergence on wave 5. Then we had a 22 bear market. Again, we started our previous cycle around oversold. We had wave 1 right into overbought, wave 2 into equilibrium, wave 3 on the highest point on the RSI, wave 4 again into equilibrium, wave 5, of course, the bearish divergence in the weekly time frame. Then we had the Liberation Day crash. And then we had a strong recovery, which of course it's a brand new bull market here for the SPX since the Liberation Day crash, which day was that? Monday, April 7. The RSI indicator is still behaving like we are actually starting a new Elliott wave cycle. We went from oversold into overbought on what appears to be a wave one. Now, the trick here comes that wave two usually goes at least to the 0.236 Fibonacci retracement, but we did not retest that level, right? When we actually crashed here, let me show where we did. So that 0.2 was the 6430 level for SPX, and we actually did not retest that level. So that made it a bit suspicious. NASDAQ and the Dow actually did retested that level, so they could have already went through a wave two correction, but for the SPX we're not seeing that. So for the bull case, what kind of doesn't let me sleep a bit is that it does seem that we could be going here for a zigzag correction, a typical ABC move. This would be the first drop. We go into a flat correction, and there could be the possibility that we could retest the lower Bollinger Band on the weekly time frame, which is located at 65.90 basically. But I do think we could retest that 64.90 actually, which would be the 0.2 Fibonacci retracement. The RSI could still go a bit lower into equilibrium. And I would even if we still retest the around 6500s range, I think I would still be looking at this as a bull market in development. I think this would be a correction to buy the dip. And then I would be looking at more bullish continuation throughout the week, throughout the year. If we start breaking below 64.90, especially if we actually break lower than the 0.3, 0.3 would start looking a bit more dangerous at the 61.80 level for SPX. If we start breaking below the middle, the small pullback here for SPX, that is going to start looking much more dangerous. But I think I would still call this a bull market if we're able to hold here. Now, if we start breaking above resistance, which is all-time highs at SPX 7,000, that's going to look very bullish. It would look like we are not going into a potential correction here, and we would be breaking higher. What I don't like a bit also, it's this volume under this distribution. It does seem there was some selling pressure here, even though the volume closed on the green candlestick. What we're seeing is that the next week we're actually rejecting. So I would say scenario, it's a bit mixed. I wouldn't say it's very, very clear, but I would say it is leaning towards we might go for a potential. Let's measure how much would that be. Think we could be going for a 7, 8, maybe 10% pullback in that would be already a technical correction if we reach a 10% drop. But I think we could be going into a 7, 8% pullback here in the markets. But I do think that would be a buying opportunity. And the reason I think it would be a buying opportunity is because there are many stocks presenting good buying opportunities as well. And let's go with currently my favorite pick to buy right now. And that one would be Service Now. We're going to check the chart and we're going to check its fundamentals too. All right, Service Now, massive crash. Massive crash. I actually started my position somewhere around here, around 150, but I did increase a lot my position here, around $100. Before we get back into the technicals, I want to show the fundamentals. Apparently, these software stocks are all going to get disrupted by AI. That's the current narrative going on the internet, that software stocks are going to get replaced by AI. But even though I personally, of course, don't think that, I want to show the fundamentals for now, why I do think it's a strong stock to buy, and why then we're getting back into the technicals, why, of course, the time to buy it apparently would be now. All right, Service Now here in its fundamental indicators from TradingView. First of all, how is revenue looking? Revenue, it's amazing for the stock, amazing. We can see a steady growth here for revenue. This last earnings report, we had revenue increasing. This is very strong growth. So revenue, it's looking amazing here for the stock. Check it, compare it to the stock price. let's see. The stock was trading after split levels, right? After split levels, the stock was after, I'm sorry, average 240 basically on January 2025, all right? So when we were at 240 per share on January 2025, that's here, we had 2.95 billion in revenue. Now we're trading at basically 106, 100. We got 3.57 billion. That's a very big increase here in revenue, and the stock has dropped how much from all-time highs? It's crazy how much we dropped. We're down 60%. We're down 60% on this stock, and look at that revenue. So, of course, revenue, it's not the only important thing. Revenue could be increasing, but maybe the company was profitable and now it's not. If the operating margin, if the free cash flow is negative, we're going to check that. Now, growth, it's at 20%. Now, the trick with growth is that we don't actually see if the line is going down or up, because you could have had a quarter on revenue growth of, I don't know, 100%, 150, which is of course not sustainable. And the upcoming quarters, you're going to see your revenue, the line on growth actually going lower. But what we want to measure, it's actually here, the number. And we got 20% growth, revenue 1 year growth for ServiceNow. That is very, very good results. Then operating margin of 15.86. The company is getting more and more profitable. We can see their margins are increasing. So margins are increasing on a revenue that's also increasing. And then free cash flow. Free cash flow, we got it at 56%. That's very, very positive free cash flow. Debt, how is debt looking? Negative debt. So they actually have more cash than they have more cash than debt, right? And with revenue increasing like this and operating margin profitable, they can actually sustain and they can reinvest into growth without having to go into a debt. So I would say this is a very good fundamentals for ServiceNow. It's a 110 billion market cap. And let's see now its valuation relative to its own price history. For that, we're going into the price to sales indicator. This is the cheapest the stock has been. Since when? Since 2026. We went 10 years down in valuation according to the price to sales ratio. This is the most oversold we have been for the stock on the price to sales ratio in a decade. It's amazing. I do think this is very good fundamentals for the stock. So now that I would say this looks like a good strong to buy, let's check the timing. We're going into the technicals. Basically, I was looking here at these horizontal levels. We had a massive drop. Now we're trading, we're actually retesting an ascending structure, kind of like a rising wedge, even though it is expanding instead of contracting. We're retesting a support trend line that goes all the way back to 2020. We already broke below the 200 weekly moving average, correct? Here, our purple moving average. And also what I do like is the volume. This is record volume in how much? In 6 years. Correct. This is record volume in 6 years. The past 3 weeks, all record volume, record volume. I would understand that is a capitulation move for the stock. I would understand this is massive panic selling. Massive panic selling. Of course, it was. It was very difficult. Actually, I understand what ServiceNow investors, the emotions they might have gone through. I actually started my position at 150. When I saw it go back to 100, I was like, oh my God, no, this can't be. So I understand ServiceNow investors might be experiencing the same emotions through this, but I actually I bought this position yesterday. I increased my position a lot. I would say I made my biggest buy for it here. I do think it's a very good spot actually to load this stock. We have big volume coming. Oh, and I was forgetting something else. Of course, insider activity, right? So we got 88.41 shares held by institutions. Which institutions? Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. Vanguard owns 975, State Street 911. No, Vanguard 975, BlackRock 911, and State Street owns 4.52. Now, what are the insiders doing? Insiders are buying this position. We got 2,100 purchases against 20,000 sales. This is a 10-to-1 insider buying. So you're telling me that a stock that has a 10-to-1 insider buy ratio with revenue looking like this, my God, check that revenue, with operating margin increasing and very positive, with this free cash flow trading at down 60% on record volume from 6 years, I would say ServiceNow, it's a great buy. I personally bought it. And yes, I wanted to share this setup. Now I see we have here some requests, and let's go into them. All right, let's see. Yes, we had a question on what stock we were talking about, and we are actually checking ServiceNow. I stay away from now for the time being. Well, of course, it's a capitulation. It's a falling knife here, but I would say it's looking very, very strong here. If we don't have any requests here, I would also like to do a recap here on our chart. Yes, well, before we go into the Bitcoin cycle, yes, of course, the safe trade would be to find a bit here some potential strength, some potential confirmation. It's still a falling knife. It would be buying a falling knife, but with the inside, with this record volume coming in here, I think this is the typical buy when there's blood in the streets. ServiceNow investors are panic selling the stock, and I would like to be on the contrarian position to that, which would be buying the stock. Now I would like to do a recap on our Bitcoin cycle chart. So we were discussing also a potential bottom soon for Bitcoin. First time I actually shared this chart for Bitcoin, we were trading at 75,000, around 80,000 for Bitcoin, and we dropped. All right, so here on the cycle, what we already passed the middle. All right, we already passed the middle of the cycle, and this cycle has been valid since Bitcoin's creation. That doesn't mean it's going to remain valid for the rest of the history. It's always going to be there and it's never going to get broken. No, a chart is just a chart. And a chart can get invalidated too, right? So when charts get invalidated, when they get broken, it's our duty to actually find what's going on, what would be the new setup, what tweaks, what adjustments we can do for our charts. But so far, the chart remains valid. It's a sine wave tool here adjusted to the RSI in the weekly time frame, and we can see how the cycle has been marking the buying opportunities on the previous Bitcoin cycles and also kind of marking the tops. Now, for cycle analysis, kind of like the standard would be measuring from bottom to bottom, not from top to top. So we can see here our first, since Bitcoin's creation, right? Our first major crash, yeah, well, here we also had a crash, but with the momentum going down was here. And Bitcoin crashed how much? Kind of like 80, 90%. Here it marked the first bottom. We went again here on the rally. So usually what I found is that the top is usually a bit after we reach the highest point in the cycle. We can see the top here, but I'm not measuring top to top. I'm personally measuring bottom to bottom. So here we had the top, and again, we started right here. We can see as soon as the cycle started going lower, we started the bear market. We found out here we did bottom on the indicator a bit before. You also, of course, want to kind of find the average one that fits the best. Here we had the second buying opportunity. we went higher. As we mentioned, we kind of top a bit after. What I found is that we kind of top a bit after the midpoint. Then again, we had another bottom. Here, yes, we did have a retest here with a crash in the COVID crash. We can see that on the indicators still. That was quickly bought and we resumed the bull market. We topped a bit after, and then we started again. Now here, the cycle bottom was here, but we actually made a lower low a few weeks after, still kind of on the lows from the cycle. So this is not actually meant to be to predict a specific date and week to buy Bitcoin. It's more an accumulation and distribution range. Then we again had the bull market. Here we did top a bit after. But the point is now we're back. We're back to what appears to be an accumulation range. I also wanted to share this one. I first share it here before we actually kind of reached the mid, when we were at 75,000. And let's see, I would initially think this is a buying opportunity for Bitcoin. If we already went for a bottom, or if maybe we drop a bit more, of course, this is not meant to predict the specific price and the specific date for Bitcoin to potentially bottom. But I do think we're trading here on the lows of the range, so we can see kind of how it behaved here. So here, for example, Bitcoin was at 18. Yeah, then it bottomed later at 15,000. So we could maybe bottom a bit here. Maybe we could drop a bit more. But I would say kind of this upcoming weeks would be a great spot potentially to load up here on Bitcoin. Let's see also some other potential stocks. I wanted to also check Microsoft. What are we seeing for Microsoft? Where I have Microsoft, I have it right here. Big crash for Microsoft. Let me clean it up a bit here. That's the thing. Many stocks are actually looking at a bit like buying opportunities. That is the reason I do think if we go for 8% pullback, maybe a 10% correction, it kind of would look like a buying opportunity, especially on software stocks. Software stocks have got so oversold. I do think they're presenting very attractive levels for long-term positions. So for Microsoft, we got 3 weeks of big volume. This is the biggest volume since 2022. 3 weeks here. We're retesting an important support trend line, but I would say what's more important is the Fibonacci range here of 0.618 to 0.786. Usually waves 2 under Elliott wave theory go either to the 0.2, 0.3, which is the small retracement, or to the big retracement, which would be the 0.6, 0.7. So I think I would still be looking at this as a potential wave 2, under a new Elliott wave cycle. That's not the color, it would be this one. For Microsoft, if we're able to hold the 380 level, all right, if we start breaking below the 0.7, I would understand that that we could even breach the Liberation Day lows here at 350. I think we would be going lower in that case. But if Microsoft is able to hold here, it would be looking good. It's a falling knife, yes. So the safe trade would be actually if we recover above 430. If we are able to recover above 430, which would be the 0.6, I would understand we could have seen a bottom for Microsoft, especially with the volume we're seeing here. Also, let me check how is insider activity for Microsoft. I don't know this, all right, so I might get completely invalidated. Holders, we don't even need to see who are the major holders, of course. But what are the insiders doing for Microsoft here? 3-to-1. We got a 3-to-1 insider buy to sell ratio. We got 625 1,000 purchases against 200,000 purchases. This is a 3-to-1 insider buy for Microsoft stock on big volume, record volume since 2022. On the golden retracement, the golden buying opportunity, the 0.6, 0.7, I would say Microsoft would be a good buying opportunity here. Another one I wanted to actually, let's see here, if anyone would like to request any ticker, any ETF, I think we got time for 2 more. Let's see which others might be looking good here. Let's also do an update on Marvel. I always signal Marvel as a potential buy. I've been signaling it as a potential buy basically since this prices, since September. We have kind of been chopping around. I do still think this is a wave 2 correction for the stock, and of course a buying opportunity. We got a pennant pattern here forming. On a support. Yes, we're bouncing from it. We got a contraction a bit on the weekly Bollinger Bands, and we're kind of holding. We had a breakdown, but we managed to close strongly last week on what appears to be a bit of a liquidity catch. What I like for Marvel is the volume, not only on 1, 2 candlesticks, all the volume going on here. It's looking very strong. I do think we're going for a brand new elite wave cycle. Let me also check here insider activity for Marvel. Let's see if it still remains strong. Okay. My God, I'm more bullish now on Marvel. This was not like that the last time I saw it. Oh my God. Maybe I'm going to have to sell the position and increase Marvel here. We got 500,000 purchases against 6,000 sales. I don't even know what's the insider buy to sell ratio on this. We got 530,000 purchases against 600,000 sales. My God, I thought I couldn't get more bullish on this stock, but it appears I can. Let's check its earnings. Let's check the fundamentals for the stock. Where is it? All right, I haven't seen in a while. Oh my God, yes, this is what I want to see. Of course, revenue still looking strongly. Growth 36. That's very strong, 36 growth. Yes, absolutely. Yes, of course. Operating margin even coming better. Free cash flow, 24. They got 2 billion in debt, yes. But what's the trick with debt? It's not if they have debt or not. It's how much is the debt relative to their earnings. So they got 2 billion in debt, right? Ooh, well, 2 billion in revenue, that's 1-to-1. I wouldn't say this is dangerous. For example, like with Oracle, that I think it had like 10 times more debt than they had revenue. This is the only thing I didn't like. All right, I would like to see their debt much lower than their revenue. I have to be objective here, but it kind of seems they are starting to pay it off. This is the only thing I don't like, is that kind of it's equal, their debt to their revenue. All right, that's the only thing. Now their price to sales ratio, it's at 8. That's very low. But yes, I think here that would I would call it a buy. And we're going to check here app, of course. Let's check APP. I think we got time for that one. My God, where is it? I've increased my watch list. Now stocks get lost. Here it is. Okay, what is the last thing I had? Okay, my elite wave cycle. I think my elite wave cycle was incorrect. I had two possibilities of this being a wave 4, but we're breaching below. No, I'm sorry. We're breaching below the 1, so that would be invalidating this count. This count is invalid. I would have to check again my Elliott wave cycle, but now it does appear this was actually the wave 5. So wave 1 was somewhere around here. I would have to go into the logarithmic. This was wave 3. This was wave 4. This was wave 5. And the reason I think this was wave 5, besides the super double top here, is because, as usually, remember what we said? So the Elliott wave cycle would look like this. From oversold into overbought. Then we go for wave 2 into equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI indicator. Wave 4 into equilibrium, and wave 5 has the bearish divergence. I would have to adjust this into price action. This I have to go into the logarithmic. Yeah, but if this is ending here an Elliott wave cycle, I think, of course, it would be starting another one. I would have to check my technical model here. Let me check insider activity for the stock. All right, 1 second. Let me check insider activity, and then we can do yes, PINS. Let's see. I don't know what we're going to see here on insider activity. Vanguard, BlackRock, okay. Top holders, insider transactions. No, we got more sales. There's purchases, okay. But we got basically 1.4 million sales against 1.2 million purchases. That's not strong buy. That's not strong buy. Let me check their fundamentals. And they were going for the final request. Where is this stock? Well, it's revenue, it's good. It would look like a technical correction. Growth at 20, it's good too. Oh, operating margin at 60, 76. That is strong. That is strong. Free cash. Oh, numbers are great. Numbers are great for the stock. No debt here. Well, 1 billion. Fundamentals also are strong. Are strong. I think this is a technical correction. I think it's a technical correction. We still kind of got like a double top here. So from that perspective, I can have it for the next one. All right. Let me refresh my Elliott wave structure here. My previous one got invalidated. A chart is just a chart. You kind of have to model it and check it and update. I would say I would like to see where we could start a new Elliott wave cycle. RSI on the weekly, MACD going lower here, both low. I would say we might be close to a cycle, but I would like to give it some time. And let's check the final one here, Pinterest. So initially, all right, initially, this looks like, could this be a stage 1 accumulation? I would like to see their revenue, all right, and insider activity. We're going here quickly. There is some volume behind this capitulation, but I wouldn't say this is that strong, all right? Let me check here first their numbers. Okay, well, revenue, it's increasing. At least the company, it's not decreasing. Sales growth, it's at 16. I wouldn't say it's that bad. Operating margin at 5, not ideal. That's a bit low. Free cash flow, they got it at 30. They don't got debt, at least. So I wouldn't say it's the best fundamentals we have seen. They would have to work on it. They do definitely need better numbers if they want to recover investor confidence. But this is how we're going to determine if this could be a stage 1 or not. All right. If this is a stage 1, insiders should be buying. And I don't know what we're going to see here. But if this is a stage 1, insiders should be buying. First, who are all the major holders? The same as always? Yes. BlackRock with 11, Vanguard with 10. Then we got Elliott Investment Management. Then we got Price, State Street with 2. Okay. Insider transaction. Let's see, surprise, surprise. Aha. All right. Now they got a point. They got 1.8 million insider purchases last 6 months against 800,000 insider sales. This is how much? A 2-to-1. A bit more than 2-to-1. Oh yeah, actually it's 850, so that would be 1.7 million. So yeah, it's basically a 2-to-1 insider buy. Look, it's not the best inside. It's not the strongest insider buy sell we have seen. Remember, we saw 10-to-1 insider buy to sell for now. We saw 500,000 against basically 6,000 for Marvel. I don't even know what's the insider buy to sell for Marvel. For Microsoft, we saw it 3-to-1. All right, we're seeing 2-to-1 for Pinterest. I would say at least it's a point for the bulls. It is a point for the bulls. If you believe on the stock, if you like the company, if you know the product, I don't know it. I haven't been following their products. I don't know their market share. So I don't know the company and its products. But if you believe on it, if you have been following it, and you do think it's a good long-term position, I would say it would be here. It's basically how long? It's almost record lows. Almost record lows. Their fundamentals, I wouldn't say they're shrinking. Still, I would prefer to see something much more stronger. But insiders are buying here, so Pinterest bulls will have that in their favor. So yes, that will be all for today. I would like to thank you, everyone. We can check the others on the upcoming sessions. I'm sorry we already ran out of time. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your interest. I hope this was a nice session. At first, I was only presenting ServiceNow, which is a strong buy, but now I know I sound like a broken record with Marvel, but it's one of my strongest positions, one of my biggest positions. I did and saw that insider buy. I hadn't done an update like in a couple of weeks. So I would say now basically it's ServiceNow, it's Marvel. For Bitcoin, we do need to see if we start recovering here. If we start recovering here, as crazy as it might sound, I think we could be about to see another crypto bull market. So let's see. Of course, a chart is just a chart. Charts can get invalidated, can get broken. Things can happen in the world that can easily break a chart in a second or two. So of course, we have to remain updated. We have to update always our charts and see if the strategies are valid or if they get invalidated and we have to flip sides. I would say ServiceNow, Marvel are looking very strong. I wanted to share those. I hope this was a nice session. Thank you, everyone, and see you. Also, thank you to Ryan and all the Benzinga team for inviting us here. If you would like to see a bit more of our work, you can visit our website, tradingmadesimple.org. And thank you, everyone. I hope we all have a great weekend.